Dun 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 dun. Hello again. Today, oh, I forgot to. Thank you, Raven. Oh God, oh, I minusculed myself. Hi, Raven. Hello. Thanks for hanging out. And thank you for the lurk, Silver. I can't stop thinking about Warrior Cats, and because we skipped 2 weeks, I decided I'm gonna read again today. And also, I don't have very long today because I have to go grocery shopping. So we only have until 5:30. We'll aim for somewhere in between that. So rather than, I don't know, yeah, rather than whatever, you know, that's what that we're gonna read instead. Took me forever to find the thumbs up. I hope you feel better, Juice. On my current team on that Nuzlocke. I'm excited to see. It's a shiny Nuzlocke, right? So I'm excited to see your shinies. I think my voice is a little better today. I'm not sure. It probably sounds a little better at first, and then as I start to read, it'll change again. All right. Where's the thing? Right before I started stream, I started watching Alira play Monster Hunter World, and she didn't. It was her very first Monster Hunter game, and she got to the palicos where the like little kitty cats are, and she got so excited, which was me when I found out I could do that. All right. Whoa, my mouse is in view. That's not good. What happened last time? What happened previously on Warrior Cats, the site? Oh, there was a gathering. Yes, they went to the gathering. Oh yeah, they went to the gathering, and it was a normal gathering. It was Lion Paws and Holly Paws' first gathering. J Paw wasn't allowed because he got in trouble. And Gray Stripe showed up. Gray Stripe arrived with Millie, his new mate. And it was very exciting, and everyone was really happy to see him, and it was really cute. And then everybody started getting all like, like, oh my God, who's going to be the new deputy now? Because Brambleclaw is a deputy, but Graystripe was originally the deputy. Oh my gosh, the drama, the what's the right choice. And then in the end, Firestar asked Leafpool to go talk to StarClan about what the choice should be. Leafpool went all the way to the Moonpool, and J-Paw was like, bruh, I'm bored. And so he left and followed Leafpool all the way to the Moonpool, and then went to sleep and snooped in her dream. He went to sleep and then stood in the shadows of her dream and was like, It was like, cool. And then when Leafpool woke up, J-Paw woke up, and then she was like, what the heck are you doing here? And then J-Paw's like, I was bored. I wanted to see what you were doing. And then Leafpool was like, you saw what I was doing? And then he's like, yeah, what are you gonna tell Firestar? And then she was like, well, he should, he has to make his own choice. And then J-Paw's like, are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure they meant Brambleclaw. And then Leafpool was like, you understand them? And then J-Paw was like, yeah, it was obvious. Anyways, and so they went back, and then Firestar was like, yep, Brambleclaw is going to be the new deputy. I mean, the same deputy. There's not going to be a change in deputies. Graystripe is just here, and he's getting used to things. Also, hi, Joshy! It's been a while. And while he was there, what happened after that? Then they went. Then it was like they just decided they were all going to go on a patrol, or they weren't deciding to go on a patrol. Holly, they just happened. All three of them happened to be on a patrol together, And during that patrol, the Shadow Clan decided they wanted to push their boundaries a little further. And so they all went over to Shadow Clan border and were like, yo, bro, what are you up to? And then Shadow Clan came out of the shadows, and like pretty much the entire clan of warriors stepped out as well and was like, we're taking this land. And then there was a fight, and Lion Paw had to rush and get help, and then he came back with more warriors, and then they finished the fight. And there was a really sad scene where J-Paw was essentially just getting teased by another apprentice. Like, he would jab him, and then J-Paw would slash, and then he would jump out of the way. You know, like a really sad kind of torture. And then Lion Paw helped him by like telling him where Owl Paw was, and then he won. But J-Paw didn't feel like he won because he didn't really win. And Holly Paw was really excited. She was so psyched, and she was like, yeah, baby. That was so cool. I did so much goodness. And then Leaf Paw was like, who's injured? And she was like, I don't know. So she started doubting herself, and J-Paw was also doubting himself because he realized that he couldn't fight, and he could never fight like a warrior. And so Holly Paw confided in Brooke, and Brooke essentially helped her sort out her thoughts that she wanted to be a warrior apprentice instead of a medicine cat apprentice. So she talked to Leafpool, and Leafpool was like, all right, let's go tell Firestar. And so they told Firestar. Meanwhile, the night before, J-Paw was also in an existential crisis about his life. So he decided he would go all the way to the Moon Pool and talk to StarClan. And on his trip there, once he was there and he went to sleep, he ended up wandering into the dark forest where Tiger Star and Hawkfrost are. And they offered to train him to be a warrior. And then Spotted Leaf came and fetched him and brought him back. And then they had like a little back and forth argument. Warrior cats on a... It's not even a Tuesday! Himolka, it's Thursday. I know. It was pushed. I mean, no, it wasn't pushed. It was, I'm essentially just catching up. Quasso! Pride? Is that you, Pride? Quasso? Quasso? It is you. Wow. So J-Paw, J-Paw. Oh my gosh, that reminds me. I saw a new YouTube thing where I can be grabbed and shook, just like that image. So I'm gonna set it up, and then you guys can grab and shake me. And yeah. Wait, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so J-Paw went and spoke to Spotted Leaf, and Spotted Leaf essentially told him he has to be a medicine cat, and he was like, no, I don't wanna. Quasso, I have an idea for a short story for you. Oh, vampire, it's gonna be lit. I wanna know. Are you gonna put it in the Discord when you're done so I can read it? So yes, J-Paw was told he had to be medicine cat. He was grumbly about it, but he decided to accept it. And so he trudged back, and right after Holly Paw told Firestar that she wanted to be a warrior cat apprentice, like a warrior apprentice, J-Paw stumbled in, and then he was like, I have to talk to Firestar. And then Holly Paw was like, okay. And then they went in, and then J-Paw was like, bruh. And that's where we are. Will do. When do you think it's going to be done, Pride? I want to read it right now. We're on a little bit of a time limit today, so I will start though. And then I want to show you, oh wait, here, how about I show you guys right now? Well, today I just started working on my chibi again. Actually, there's not very much that has been worked on since last time, but I'm going to show you anyways. I'm eyeless. Look, it's me as a small bean. The mouth is not done yet. It's all like, it is not optimized at all. But my hair is meow, meow, meow. I'm a tiny little guy. My green bow is being green screened, but that's all right. Oh, so is my cheek. Wow. Only one cheek though, not the other cheek. For some odd reason, I don't know why. All right, let's go back. We will open the book together. Oh. All right. Lettuce beginius, as they say. I'm going to read the last bit of the last chapter just so we get like that good smooth transition over. All right. Let's see. At the ledge outside Firestar's den, Hollypaw announced her arrival once more. Back already? Firestar called her inside. He looked surprised to see J-Paw with her, but before he could speak, J-Paw stumbled into the center of the den. He fixed his sightless gaze on Firestar, his stare so intense it seemed as though he could see the ThunderClan leader as clearly as the rest of them could. I need to train to be a medicine cat, he mewed. Hollypaw stared at her brother in astonishment. J-Paw had always been so sure that he wanted to be a warrior, ever since he had been old enough to bounce on a scrap of moss. Firestar looked at Hollypaw. Did you know anything about this? No! Hollypaw gasped. Firestar sounded as if he suspected they had planned it all together. J-Paw looked over his shoulder at her, his blue eyes round with anxiety. Hollypaw, I'm sorry. It's all right. Leafpool padded over to J-Paw and brushed his ear with her muzzle. Hollypaw has already told Firestar that she wants to train as a warrior apprentice instead. J-Paw blinked. Really? Hollypaw nodded. A tinge of hope pricked in her paws. Perhaps this was the perfect solution. After all, J-Paw had always known the herbs better than she did. But would Firestar agree? Firestar looked at Leafpool. Are you ready to take on another apprentice so soon? Leafpool sat down and wrapped her tail over her paws. I would be honored to be J-Paw's mentor. She dipped her head. I think the clan would be lucky to have him as its medicine cat. Hollypaw stared at Leafpool. Why does she look like she's hiding something? And what about his blindness? Firestar queried. Hollypaw bristled. Surely J-Paw wouldn't let Firestar get away with that. He knows his herbs far better than me, she mewed quickly. His sense of smell is incredible, Leafpool agreed. He can already tell an infected wound from a clean one a tail length away. Hollypaw waited for J-Paw to point out that blindness had nothing to do with it, but he only murmured, I will try as hard as I can. Leafpool will soon see whether I can manage or not. Very well. Firestar nodded, looking a little dazed. Leafpool will be your new mentor. J-Paw dipped his head. But first, Firestar went on, we must tell Brightheart. J-Paw's ears twitched. She'll be hurt. Hollypaw could hear anxiety in his mew. Her brother had never gotten on particularly well with his mentor, but he was clearly worried about her feelings. Maybe Brightheart could be my mentor, she suggested. Firestar shook his head. Her skills were perfect for training J-Paw, but not for you. He shifted his paws. She will be a mentor again very soon. Don't worry. What if she doesn't understand my decision? J-Paw mewed. It's up to you to make her understand, Firestar answered. I may be able to tell the clan what to do, but I can't tell them how to feel. I'll make sure she knows my decision has nothing to do with her, J-Paw promised. This is something I have to do. His mew was oddly flat. Hollypaw felt a ripple of unease stir her pelt. It was almost as if being Leafpool's apprentice wasn't J-Paw's choice at all, but something that had been forced upon him. Leafpool glanced at Firestar and Sandstorm, the sort of meaningful glance that told Hollypaw that they wanted to exchange words in private. Taking the hint, she bowed her head. Shall I fetch Brightheart? Firestar nodded. Yes, please. She's in the warrior's den, J-Paw told them. Hollypaw's whiskers twitched. It was weird that J-Paw was always totally aware of what was going on in the camp. She bounded into the clearing and padded over to the warrior's den. Sticking her head through the entrance, she called Brightheart's name. Brightheart was sitting up in her nest, washing, her warm breath billowing in the gloom. Firestar would like to see you in his den, Hollypaw told her. Brightheart stopped, her tongue still half out, and stared at Hollypaw. She looked as if she was about to ask why. Hollypaw ducked out of the den. She didn't want to give Brightheart time to speak. She knew she would not be able to hide the truth, but she also knew that it was J-Paw's duty to break the news to his mentor. She slipped into the apprentice's den before Brightheart emerged. It seemed a good time to visit her new home. The scent of the yew was strange, but the nests were all empty. J-Paw's nest would be hers now, she guessed. She sniffed it out and gazed around the shelter, happy at the thought of sleeping among her clanmates. After the nursery, her nest in the medicine den had seemed cold and lonely. She wished some of the apprentices were here to welcome her. Everyone must be out training. The thought brought a prickle of excitement. Before long, she would be out with them. When Hollypaw slipped out of the den, she saw Brightheart scrambling up the rockfall to Firestar's cave. Thorncloud lay on a half-rock, sharing tongues with Whitewing. Spiderleg was dozing in the early morning sunshine below the high ledge. Foxkit and Icekit burst from the nursery entrance in a flurry of fur and whiskers. Don't stray into the clearing, Thorncloud's voice called from inside the den. I don't want you getting under anyone's paws. We won't, Icekit replied. Icekit flicked her brother's russet-colored muzzle with her tail. Foxkit retaliated with a huge lunge that sent her tumbling towards Hollypaw. Hollypaw steadied the snow-white kit with her paws. Hi, Hollypaw! Icekit glanced up at her, then spun and leapt at her brother. She tumbled over him, grasped him with a paw behind each cheek, and began to pummel him enthusiastically with her hind paws. Tuck in your head, Foxkit, and give her a good nip, Hollypaw called. Icekit squeaked and let go of her brother. That's not fair, she wailed. You're helping him. Doesn't look like you need my help, Hollypaw mewed. Foxkit hurled himself at his sister. Duck, Hollypaw warned the snowy kit. Icekit rolled out of the way just in time, and Foxkit skidded past her into the frosty grass outside the apprentice's den. He turned and, crouching low, prowled back towards Icekit. Not so fast, Hollypaw advised. Icekit was waiting with her chest pressed to the ground and her tail lashing excitedly. Let her come to you. Foxkit stared at his sister, his eyes defiant. She won't dare come near me. Thank you for the lurk, Phil. And thank you for the hydrate, Mika. Icekit wriggled closer, unable to resist her brother's challenge. Foxkit waited until she was so close that her breath billowed in his face. Get behind her now, Hollypaw urged. Foxkit darted out of the grass and shot behind Icekit. By the time she had spun around, he had jumped onto her back and was rolling onto her side. You two are going to make great warriors, Hollypaw purred. A flash of ginger and white fur caught her eyes. Brightheart was leaping down the tumble of rocks. Hollypaw felt a pang of sympathy. J-Paw had been Brightheart's first apprentice. She must have been eager to prove that she could make a good mentor as any other warrior. Hollypaw hoped J-Paw had persuaded her that his decision had nothing to do with the way that she had been training him. Show us a fighting move! Foxkit was reaching up to Hollypaw's shoulder with his forepaws, tugging her pelt. Hollypaw ducked down and, twisting like a snake, rolled over onto her back. Wow, Icekit breathed. You're real quick. The white kit gaze flickered across the clearing, and suddenly she looked nervous. Firestar's coming, she whispered. I've decided on your new mentor, Firestar announced, stopping in front of Hollypaw. You've got a new mentor? Foxkit mewed in surprise. Firestar gazed down at the little kit. She's going to train as a warrior, he explained. I thought she was training to be a medicine cat, squeaked Icekit. Hollypaw felt a prickle of unease. She still couldn't help worrying that she broke the warrior code. Hollypaw knows what's best. Hollypaw knows best what lies in her heart, Firestar meowed. I do, Hollypaw thought. Cloudtail came hurrying through the camp entrance. I've told him, he called to Firestar. He's on his way. We'll have an apprentice ceremony later, Firestar told Hollypaw, but I've called your new mentor back from the hunting patrol. If he agrees to take you on, you might as well start right away. You've got plenty of training to catch up on. Hollypaw nodded, unable to speak because her throat seemed to have closed up with excitement. The thorn barrier quivered. Firestar? Breakenfur hurried towards the ThunderClan leader, panting. He must have run all the way back. What is it? Hollypaw flicked her tail happily. Not only was Breakenfur a great fighter, but he was also clever and thoughtful. She trusted his judgment as much as his strength. Would you be willing to take on Hollypaw as an apprentice? Firestar asked. Breakenfur's gaze shot towards Hollypaw. What happened? Hollypaw tensed. Was he going to say no? After all, she had let him down. She had already let one mentor down. I don't think I'm cut out to be a medicine cat. Breakenfur gazed at her a moment longer, then turned back to Firestar. I'd be pleased to train her. Hollypaw felt a wave of relief. Good, Firestar meowed. I'll leave her in your paws, then. He turned and patted away. Breakenfur looked Hollypaw up and down. You've got some catching up to do, he warned. I know. I'm going to train extra hard. Good. Breakenfur flicked his tail. We'll do battle training every day to begin with. Great! Breakenfur stared at her with his head to one side. I'm not going to ask what made you change your mind. If you're going to be a warrior, I want you to concentrate on the present, not the past. You've made your decision, and I expect you to stick to it. I will, Hollypaw vowed. Breakenfur kneaded the ground with his front paws, his shoulders flexing. Are you ready to start training right away? Hollypaw nodded. Good. You can join our hunting patrol. He headed back towards the thorn barrier and raced out of the entrance. Taken by surprise, Hollypaw pelted right after him, her tail fluffed out. Her first real hunt! Breakenfur didn't slow down to accommodate her shorter legs, and Hollypaw had to run twice as fast to keep up with him. He raced up the slope and headed through the forest. All the time Hollypaw had spent sorting herbs had exercised her mind more than her body. She realized with a jolt how much fitter the other warrior apprentices must be. Breakenfur glanced over his shoulder as she struggled after him. We're nearly there, he encouraged. Hollypaw dug her claws into the frozen earth and tried even harder to catch up. A fallen tree blocked the path, but Breakenfur cleared it with ease. Hollypaw skidded to a halt in front of it and wriggled through the narrow gap underneath. Breakenfur was waiting for her on the other side. Graystripe and Millie were pacing the small clearing in the undergrowth. Ashfur and Spiderleg talked quietly nearby, while their apprentices, Lionpaw and Mousepaw, competed to see who could skid furthest through the fallen leaves. Lionpaw stared at Hollypaw in surprise. What are you doing here? Meet my new apprentice, Breakenfur meowed. Lionpaw's tail flicked. That's great! Graystripe padded forward and touched his muzzle to hers. Congratulations! Did you catch anything while I was gone? Breakenfur asked. There's prey. The prey's hiding from the cold, Ashfur complained. There must be some way to tempt it out, Breakenfur meowed. It'll be hungry as we are. We could dig it out, Lionpaw suggested. The shallow burrows would be easy to scent. The ground's probably too frozen, Ashfur pointed out. What about that huge beech tree near the old thunder path? Spiderleg suggested. There are always beech nuts on the ground, even this late in Leaf Bear. The prey's more likely to venture out there than anywhere else, Breakenfur agreed. He raced away again. The patrol took off after him. Taking a deep breath, Hollypaw followed. Did Breakenfur always give such little warning before he shot off? And how did the others know to follow him? Her muscles were screaming for her to stop, but there was no way she was going to show she was struggling to keep up. Her paws lightened with relief when she recognized the leaves of the beech up ahead. They rustled in the wind, and golden as Breakenfur's pelt. The patrol skidded to a halt before they reached it and padded forward silently, weaving through the bracken towards the clear ground around the trunk. Hollypaw watched and copied them. Hi, Kaito. Thank you for the lurk. No one spoke as Brackenford drew himself forward and peered from the edge of the break-in, while the others lined up alongside. Hollypaw slid into the space beside her mentor. "Keep your tail still," he whispered. Hollypaw realized that the tip of her tail was twitching with excitement. "Sorry," she breathed. When she held it still, the dry break-in fronds above her stopped rattling. The rest of the patrol lined up along the edge of the break-in, their eyes all fixed on the leaf-strewn earth around the trees. "I see something," Lionpaw hissed. Hollypaw searched the forest floor, but she could see nothing. She looked at Lionpaw and followed his gaze. He was staring at a single leaf trembling beside an exposed root. Was that really prey? She sniffed the air. At first, all she smelled was the pungent mustiness of dead leaves, and then she smelled mouse. She thrashed her tail, setting the break-in rattling again. The leaf up ahead flipped over, and Lionpaw shot out of the break-in and hurled himself towards it. "Too late," he cursed as he slammed his paws down on the empty ground. He glared at Hollypaw. "You scared it off!" Hollypaw's ears grew hot. "I'm sorry," she apologized. "Don't be hard on her," Ashford chided Lionpaw. "It's her first hunt." Lionpaw shrugged. "It's okay, Hollypaw. I was just annoyed because I wasn't fast enough." "You look fast enough to me," Hollypaw told him. "You're only fast enough if you catch your mouse," Mousepaw mewed pointedly. "Keep quiet or nothing is going to stir from its burrow for the rest of the day," Brackenford ordered. Lionpaw hurried back to the break-in, and the patrol took up their positions once more. "Hi, Nostril!" Hollypaw's back was beginning to ache from crouching in the same position so long. Lionpaw had caught his mouse at last. Ashford had caught a vole, and Mousepaw had spotted a sparrow flitting from tree to tree and disappeared into the undergrowth to track it. "Your turn," Brackenford meowed in Hollypaw's ear. Her shoulders stiffened. "Are you sure?" She thought she was more likely to scare the prey away than catch anything. "You learn more by trying than by watching," Brackenford replied. Hollypaw focused on the beech tree up ahead. The clearing still smelled of blood. Surely no prey would be foolish enough to stray out after Lionpaw and Ashford's kill. "Shouldn't we try somewhere else?" she suggested. "There are beech nuts here," Brackenford reminded her. "If a creature's hungry enough, it'll risk anything for food." Hollypaw stirred among the roots of the tree. Almost at once, she noticed a leaf flickering on the ground. She dashed out of the break-in and threw herself on top of it. Her heart sank when she realized the ground fell flat and lifeless beneath her paws. She had caught nothing more than a dead leaf flapping in the breeze. She glanced back at her clanmates, her pelt prickling with embarrassment. Graystripe's whiskers were twitching. Millie glanced sharply at her mate, and his whiskers stopped moving. "It's the same for every cat to start with," the kitty pet reassured Hollypaw. "Have another try." Hollypaw closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then she blinked them open and glanced around the clearing. "I'm not fast enough yet to hunt from the break-in," she decided. She studied the tree. Its pale bark darkened at the roots, which snaked out from the base before disappearing into the earth. Her black pelt would blend in well. Climbing stealthily onto one of the largest roots, she crouched to begin to wait. She looked over at Brackenford, wondering if she had done the right thing. He nodded. Relieved, Hollypaw turned her attention back to the forest floor. She kept perfectly still, not letting even an inch make her ear twitch. Far away, a sparrow screeched an alarm before falling silent. Still, she did not move. Then, almost directly below the root where she crouched, a tiny movement in the leaves made her tense the muscles in her hind legs. She waited. Sure enough, the leaf stirred again, and a small pink nose came snuffling out to the surface. A wood mouse! Hollypaw held her breath, waiting like an adder preparing to strike. The mouse nosed its way further out into the open, heading for a beechnut. Hollypaw knew it had no idea she was there. She pounced, catching the mouse squarely between her forepaws. "Well done!" Brackenford called. Hollypaw looked up, the warm mouse dangling in her jaws. Her first kill! She closed her eyes, remembering how Lionpaw and Ashford had given thanks to StarClan when they had made their kills. "Thank you for the life of this prey, given to feed my clan. I shall take no more than I want," she paused. "Need. And I shall give all that I can." She was on her way of being a warrior at last. Chapter 19. "Mousefur kept me awake half the night coughing," Longtail complained. It's a wonder you could hear me over your own snoring, Mousefur retorted. J-Paw sighed. He was in the elder's den, listening to the den mates bicker like kits. He didn't know why they argued so much. Even now, Longtail's complaint was his only way of telling J-Paw that he was worried about Mousefur. I can't feel any swelling around her throat, J-Paw told him. Just make sure she eats the colt's foot I brought. Leafpool says it'll ease her breathing. I don't need herbs, Mousefur grumbled. Take them anyways, Longtail urged. At least it means you'll eat something. You've not had anything since Sunhigh yesterday. I don't like to take prey from the fresh kill pile when food is so scarce, Mousefur meowed. There are younger bellies to feed than mine. Well, eat the colt's foot instead, Longtail meowed, if only to give me some peace. Muttering crossly, Mousefur used her tail to sweep the pile of shredded leaves towards her nest. J-Paw sighed. Listening to the elders fussing, he felt as though nothing had changed since his day with Brightheart. After hardly a quarter moon, he was bored of the ends of his whiskers outdolling. After hardly a quarter moon, so a week? After hardly a quarter moon, he was bored to the ends of his whiskers with doling out herbs. He was meant to visit Stormfur in the warrior's den next and apply a honey and horsetail polish to his shoulder wound yet again. The warrior refused to rest. Hi, Pappy! The warrior refused to rest, and the balm seemed to rub off as quickly as J-Paw could apply it. Leafpool appeared at the entrance of the honeysuckle bush, bringing with her a sense of the medicine den. How's Mousefur's throat? She asked. It's fine, J-Paw answered tersely, although it would be easier to tell if she stopped complaining long enough for me to feel it properly. Leafpool's irritation spiked the air. If you can't be polite to your clanmates, you may as well come back to the medicine den and help me tear up the tansy that Hollypaw was kind enough to fetch for you yesterday, she snapped. J-Paw rolled his eyes. Another moment in the medicine den and he would burst. So much for his great destiny as a medicine cat. Spotted Leaf hadn't warned him that life would be one tedious chore after another. Leafpool led the way back to the den, her shoulders tense. J-Paw padded miserably after her. He felt a lecture brewing in her like a storm and nosed his way reluctantly through the trailing brambles and sat down. You drift around the camp like a dark little cloud looking for someone to rain on, Leafpool snapped. I'm bored, J-Paw complained. Exasperation flashed from his mentor. Anyone would think I had forced you to become my apprentice. You didn't force me, Great J-Paw agreed. But it's what you wanted all along, isn't it? He lashed his tail. Are you happy now? Do I sound happy? Leafpool hissed. J-Paw could feel the fury seething beneath her pelt. Why did she have to be so mad at him? Couldn't she understand that he had expected more from his life than this? It's okay for you, he snapped. You always wanted to be a medicine cat. And you don't? It's my destiny, he muttered. Wanting doesn't seem to come with it. Then deal with it, Leafpool growled unsympathetically. Unhappily, J-Paw padded to the heap of tansy Hollypaw had left and began to strip the leaves from the stems. He ripped at them carelessly, leaving long strings of stalk attached. Leafpool sighed and sat down beside him. Wordlessly, she began to nip off the trailing strips he had left. Her disappointment showed in every small, silent movement she made. Guilt pricked at J-Paw like a belly full of thorns. He wished he could find the words to explain his frustration, but he knew that whatever he said would only make it worse. What would she say if she knew just how miserable he was at giving up his dream of being a warrior? And for this! A life of sorting herbs and worrying about scratches and belly aches. Leafpool? Stormfur pushed his way into the den. J-Paw could smell the sour odor of the scratches festering on his shoulder. He had forgotten to apply the new polish. He jerked his head around, feeling guiltier than ever. Didn't you treat Stormfur's scratch? Leafpool demanded. You told me to come right back here, he pointed out. You're right, she sighed. Never mind, I'll do it. You get some rest. It's half moon tonight. We'll be traveling to the moon pool with the other medicine cats. Brightheart was lying next to Cloudtail by the half-rock, washing herself. J-Paw felt her hurt like thorns in his pads as he waited for Leafpool by the camp entrance. Firestar had promised Brightheart that she could mentor Ice Kit or Fox Kit when their turn came, But the warrior hadn't gotten over the pain of losing J-Paw as her apprentice yet. Staring at her isn't going to make her forgive you. Leaf Pool's meow surprised J-Paw. He had been too busy worrying about Brightheart to hear his mentor approaching. But she won't listen to me when I try to talk to her. J-Paw mewed. She just changes the subjects or finds an excuse to go somewhere else. She'll listen when she's ready to hear, Leafpool advised. She's had to fight hard to prove to her clanmates that she's as good as them, and this must feel like a battle she has lost. I never meant to hurt her, J-Paw mewed. It takes some cats longer to see past their weaknesses clearly enough to apprentice their... Oh my god, why did I read that so wrong? Hi, Cordy! It takes some cats longer to see past their weaknesses clearly enough to appreciate their strengths, Leafpool meowed, and until they do, they feel every hurt like a tongue on raw flesh. J-Paw felt that Leafpool was urging him to understand more than Brightheart's anger, but he didn't want to think about it right now. He was eager to leave camp. He hadn't been further than the Sky Oak in days, and his paws were itching to be on their way to the Moonpool. Leafpool must have sensed his impatience. Come on, she meowed, leading him through the thorn barrier. The night felt brittle and cold. Frost had driven most creatures into hiding, and J-Paw and Leafpool's paw steps were the only movement that disturbed the frozen earth. As they neared the WindClan border, J-Paw felt anxiety flutter in his belly. What if the other medicine cats thought a blind kit wasn't fit to be one of them? He sniffed the air. It was tinged with the scents of ShadowClan and RiverClan. The others must be waiting, Leafpool observed, picking up the same scents. J-Paw followed her out of the forest and padded onto the open grass. Moorland lay ahead. He could smell the scents of gorse and heather mingling with cat scent. He recognized Willowpaw and Mothwing from their visit to the Hollow a moon ago, but the reek of the ShadowClan cat with them brought back the raw memory of battle. Hi, Mothwing. Leafpool sounded pleased to see a RiverClan friend. Hello, Leafpool, Mothwing purred. Is the frost as bad in RiverClan as it is here? Leafpool asked. We seem sheltered from the worst of it, but the cold has driven the elders into their den. They're complaining of aching bones. You've enough poppy seeds? Yes, thank you. Hello, Little Cloud. Leafpool greeted the ShadowClan medicine cat. Is all well with you? J-Paw bristled. It wasn't long since ShadowClan invaded ThunderClan territory. How could she be so polite to her clan's enemy? It is, Little Cloud answered. Are your clanmates recovered? He had to be referring to the injuries they had suffered on the paws of ShadowClan warriors. Suspiciously, J-Paw searched the ShadowClan cat's tone for any hint of triumph, but he only found concern. One wounded unhealed, Leafpool reported. And yours? Oakfur is still limping, he told her. Try wrapping his paw with comfy each night when he sleeps, Leafpool advised. I've run out of it, Little Cloud confessed. You should have come to us, Leafpool meowed. Blackstar won't let me. I'll leave some at the border tomorrow morning, Leafpool promised. J-Paw couldn't believe what he was hearing. Did Firestar know that Leafpool was helping ThunderClan enemies? He felt a soft pelt brush his. Willowpaw from RiverClan. Where's Hollypaw? She asked quietly. She sounds disappointed to get me instead. J-Paw flicked his tail. Didn't you know? He hissed back. Hollypaw found it so boring being a medicine cat that she let her poor, useless brother do it instead. J-Paw, oh my god. Hollypaw flinched. I see you're getting to know my new apprentice, Leafpool meowed. J-Paw felt the gaze of all four cats burn into his pelt. This is J-Paw, Leafpool announced. J-Paw stared back, ready to challenge any comment about his blindness. Hi, J-Paw, Mothwing meowed. How are you enjoying being an apprentice? Little Cloud asked. J-Paw felt anxiety pulse through his mentor. She's afraid I'm going to say it's boring. It's great, he replied. J-Paw's a fast learner, Leafpool sounded relieved. He knows all the herbs already. Really? Little Cloud was clearly impressed. A new scent caught J-Paw by surprise. Another cat was hurrying towards them over the WindClan border. Parkface! Little Cloud called to the WindClan medicine cat as he approached. Where's Kestrelpaw? Kestrelpaw? He's come down with white cough, Barkface panted. Oh, not badly, I hope, mewed Leafpool. He's young and strong, Barkface replied. He'll fight it off. But I'm making sure he doesn't spread it around. With prey scarce and bellies empty, the clans are vulnerable to sickness. Mothwing mewed in agreement. The moon's rising, Little Cloud observed. We'd better hurry if we want to catch it in the moon pool. Taking a sip of rupia. Willowpaw, Mothwing called to her apprentice. Walk with J-Paw. I'm sure he has plenty of questions about the moon pool. I've been there before, you know. J-Paw bit back the words as Willowpaw fell in step beside him. She kept a wary distance, making sure her pelt did not touch his. Has Leafpool brought you here yet? She mewed, sounding as if she didn't really want to talk to him. J-Paw was about to tell her that he traveled there alone when Willowpaw grabbed his scruff without warning and dragged him sideways. He struggled free from her grip and turned on her, lunging at her with unsheathed claws. J-Paw, what are you doing? Leafpool screeched. He almost fell down a rabbit hole, Willowpaw wailed. I was trying to help him. J-Paw let go, shame burning his ears. I didn't know. He snapped. Why had you tried to help him? He wasn't a kid. Apologize at once, Leafpool ordered. But I knew the hole was there, J-Paw retorted. It was true. He had smelt the strong scent of rabbit, and his paws had been well aware of the approaching dip. I didn't need help. That's no excuse, Leafpool hissed. Apologize. I'm sorry, J-Paw muttered. That's okay, Willowpaw growled. Next time I hope you fall in. She patted ahead of him, flicking her tail past his nose. Keep up, J-Paw. He felt the flash of Leafpool's angry gaze as she glanced back at him. It wasn't his fault. Willowpaw had started it. He patted after Willowpaw, ignoring the trail of resentment that she left in her wake, and concentrated on the older cat's conversation. Hi, Darn. This late frost has damaged a lot of new leaves, Barkface commented. I was looking forward to restocking, Little Cloud agreed, but now it'll be another moon before the plants recover. There are a couple sheltered spots in RiverClan territory where the herbs have escaped damage, Mothwing told them. J-Paw strained to hear more. He wanted to know the location of every plant that could be used to his clan, no matter where. He was listening so hard that he didn't hear the stream or notice the ground turn from grass to rock beneath his paws as they approached it. The freezing air had turned the stone to ice, and suddenly his paws slipped under him. Willowpaw lunged towards him, then stopped as though claws had grabbed her tail. She watched J-Paw slither ungracefully onto his side and waited without saying a word as, hot with embarrassment, he struggled to his paws. Then she patted on, not even slowing down as he limped after her. J-Paw felt a flash of admiration at her stubborn refusal to help. J-Paw, oh my god. He's like, all right. I appreciate it. She offered him no help as he scrambled up the steep ridge either, though he could sense anxiety sparking from her as she watched him haul himself up the perilous rocks. He was relieved that he had made the climb before and knew the route well. Thank you for the follow, Inosuke? He paused at the top, listening for the voices that had guided him last time, but the only sound was the wind spiraling in the hollow. Hi! And the trickling of water as it echoed around the rocks. He patted down the paw-dimpled stone to the moon pool, stopping when he felt cold water lap the tips of his paws. The breath of the other cats warmed the air as they ringed the pool. StarClan, Leafpool called up to the sky. I bring you J-Paw, my apprentice, and pray you accept him as you once accepted me. J-Paw heard the soft chafing of fur on stone as Cat settled down at the water's edge, and he lay down beside Leafpool, tucking his paws under his chest. He did not touch his nose to the water immediately. Instead, he listened until the other cat's breathing fell into the deep rhythm of sleep. Only then did he close his eyes and lower his head until the icy water stung his nose. In an instant, he was in StarClan's hunting grounds, the undergrowth prickling his pelt. He blinked, adjusting to the shock of sight, letting his eyes get used to the chaotic colors until they fell into shapes he could recognize. Trees soared around him, their green leaves trembling against the bright blue sky. Does it look like this to Willowpaw? He wondered. He pricked his ears, listening for her. Do we share the same forest when we dream? Sniffing, he searched for her scent, and it appeared on the breeze, almost as if he had drawn it to him. He padded quickly towards her, keeping low, somehow aware that he was trespassing. Mudfur? Her soft voice was calling. J-Pop peered over the root of an oak and saw her gazing around the clearing. She was smaller than he had imagined. Her body was sleek and lithe, and her tabby markings were hardly more than delicate stripes along her pelt. Yes, little one. A molted tom padded out from the ferns and greeted her, touching his muzzle to hers. J-Paw ducked down. It's good to see you, Mudfur, Willowpaw mewed. You dealt well with Dapplepaw's stomachache. Was I right to give her reassurance rather than herbs? Willowpaw sounded anxious. Yes. She got better on her own, and the herbs can be saved for cats with greater needs. Mudfur praised her. J-Paw peeped over the root again. Willowpaw was flicking her tail happily. Have you any news to share with RiverClan? She asked. Beware of 2 eggs upstream. Their kits are trying to block the water that feeds the clan. I'll warn Mothwing, Willowpaw promised. J-Paw's whiskers tingled. Why didn't Mudfur tell Mothwing himself? Had the 2 cats argued? Would he only share tongues with Willowpaw? He backed away from the oak tree. What if Willowpaw was dreaming of Mudfur, what was Mothwing dreaming of? He opened his mouth to taste the air, searching out for Mothwing's scent. He smelled nothing. Willowpaw's scent had disappeared, as though her dream had slipped from his paws. He tried to draw Mothwing's scent to him, as he had done with Willowpaw, but nothing came. He closed his eyes and allowed the forest to slide from his consciousness, letting himself fall back into the hollow. When he opened his eyes, the moon pool was shining far below him. He could see another cat sleeping around the pool, including him. Mothwing was breathing more heavily than the others, her body twitching while the others lay motionless. Closing his eyes, J-Paw focused on her mind, willing himself into her thoughts. He smelled prey and then water, and opened his eyes to find himself among reeds at the edge of a lake. Mothwing was a few tail lengths ahead of him, stalking a frog. She pounced on it as it hopped, and let it go and watched it hop again, her whiskers twitching with amusement as it struggled clumsily along the reeds. A butterfly fluttered above her head, and she sprang up and grabbed it from the air, holding it close so that its wings tickled her nose. With a jolt, J-Paw realized this was not StarClan's hunting grounds. This was the shore of the lake that stretched between ThunderClan and RiverClan. The RiverClan medicine cat was dreaming of ordinary dreams of any clan cat. Chapter 20. Were any more of the medicine cats dreaming ordinary dreams? J-Paw let his visions flip back to StarClan's hunting grounds. He wanted to see the other cats, find out which ones truly shared tongues with StarClan. Sunlight flickered once again through the trembling canopy of leaves and warmed his pelt. He was back. StarClan was right. A rasping purr sounded from the long grass beside him. The grass quivered as a disheveled she-cat padded out. Her long, pale fur was matted in places, and her paw steps were heavy. J-Paw recognized her broad, flat face at once. It was the face that had stared directly at him from the ranks of StarClan when he had first seen them at the Hollow. What did Spotted Leaf say? He asked. She warned me not to leave you on your own devices too long. I wasn't doing anything, he mewed defensively. I've lived long enough to learn the look of mischief on a kit's face, she grunted. I'm not a kit, J-Paw retorted. At my age, you all appear like kits. The old cat's mew croaked with amusement. Who are you? He meowed. Yellowfang. I was ThunderClan's medicine cat before Cinderpelt. You've heard of Cinderpelt, I assume. Of course, J-Paw mewed, lifting his chin. Leafpool keeps looking for her among StarClan, but she can't find her. He narrowed his eyes. Have you seen her? Yes, I've seen her, Yellowfang answered, but I didn't come here to talk about Cinderpelt. She cleared her throat. You're trying to walk in other cats' dreams, aren't you? So what if I am? You should be careful, she warned. A cat with big ears sometimes hears more than he should. And who decides what I should and should not hear? J-Paw countered. You do. Yellowfang's gaze burned into his. But you are young and curiosity can be dangerous. Be careful where you tread. J-Paw bristled. Why was this old flea bag telling him what to do? Leafpaw knows I can walk in other cats' dreams, he snapped. She told me it was a special gift. It is, Yellowfang agreed. Then why shouldn't I use it? You have claws. Yellowfang's eyes glinted as she asked him the question. Of course. Then why don't you silence me by shooting me with them? What a stupid question. You're a member of StarClan, he retorted. I wouldn't attack you. Why not? Oh, why not? It would be wrong. What did you think he was? A weasel? You're my ancestor and my elder. And I'm 3 times your size. Amusement rumbled once more in Yellowfang's mew. J-Paw stared at her. What was she trying to say? There are many reasons why we don't use every power we have. Sometimes the warrior code guides us. Sometimes instincts. Sometimes common sense. She leaned closer towards J-Paw, and he tried not to shrink away from her stale breath. You have a remarkable gift, J-Paw, but you must think before you use it. Was she calling him stupid? J-Paw lashed his tail meticulously. Yellowfang narrowed her eyes and sighed. Kits! She muttered, I'm wasting my breath. She turned, ready to leave. Wait! J-Paw wasn't going to lose a chance to speak with StarClan. He wanted to solve the puzzle of Mothwing. Do you often share things with medicine cats? Yellowfang glanced back at him, her eyes glittering with suspicion. Sometimes. Why? Have you spoken with Mothwing? Yellowfang's ears twitched. You want me to waste more words on answers you won't understand? Just want to know if you've spoken to her. You are driven only by curiosity, Yellowfang hissed. That is not a good enough reason. J-Paw plucked at the ground with annoyance. Why won't you tell me? Because, Yellowfang growled. If the answer is there, you will find them anyways. Before he could say anything else, the old cat stalked away into the grass. It quivered, then fell silent, and her scent disappeared like mist in the wind. J-Paw itched with crossness. There was so much he wanted to know. Why couldn't StarClan just be open with him? Well, he decided, if the answers are there to be discovered, I'll discover them. He patted through the trees, trying to draw the sense of another medicine cat to him. A WindClan odor, earthy as the moorland, hit him. Barkface. Eagerly, J-Paw followed his scent. He ducked low and crept through clumps of ferns, weaving carefully between the stems so as to not set them rustling. Peeking out the other side, he spied Barkface. The medicine cat's eyes were shadowed with worry. Another Tom stood with him, WindClan by his scent, his pelt black and white. How many dogs will come, Tallstar? Barkface asked fearfully. I don't know, Tallstar replied. When will they reach us? The 2 legs will bring them when they bring the sheep to eat the new leaf grass, Tallstar told him. You must be ready. I will warn 1 star. As J-Paw watched Barkface dip his head to the clan leader, he felt soft fur brush his pelt. Startled, he jerked his head around. Spotted Leaf was beside him. This is not your dream, she mewed sharply. J-Paw bristled. Everywhere he went, there were other cats telling him what to do. I'm only watching, he objected. You were not given this gift so you could spy on other clans, Spotted Leaf scolded. Then tell me why I was given this gift at all, J-Paw demanded. Before Spotted Leaf could answer, another voice called his name. J-Paw? He felt a muzzle nudging his shoulder. It's time to wake up. Leafpaw's warm breath ruffled his fur. He opened his eyes to darkness. The forest was gone, and the moonpool lapped at his paws. He could hear the other cats stirring. Little Cloud and Barkface were padding around the moonpool, while Leafpool stood quietly at his side. Did you dream? Did you dream? He asked her. Yes. J-Paw's whiskers twitched with curiosity. Shadows were clouding Leafpool's thoughts. What did he dream of? A medicine cat does not disclose what StarClan shares with her unless there is good reason to, she told him. Did that mean he couldn't tell her about 1 star's warning to Barkface? Then he'd tell Firestar as soon as he reached camp. It was his duty. His tail trembled with anticipation. Firestar would be impressed. Mothwing was yawning on the other side of the moonpool, as though she had enjoyed her sleep. J-Paw leaned forward, focusing on her thoughts, but he could perceive only a careful blankness in her mind. Willowpaw's excitement suddenly flitted across the moon pool, breaking his concentration like a warm breeze disturbing fallen leaves. But she's dying to pass on Mudfur's message. He felt her curious gaze. He felt her curious gaze. He felt her curious stare graze his pelt and wondered if she had noticed him eavesdropping in her dream. He turned away from her quickly. Come on, Willowpaw, Mothwing called. It's too cold to hang around. We should get home, Leafpool meowed. Have you got something important to tell Firestar? Mothwing asked. I want to be back in camp before the dawn patrol leaves, she replied, or they'll waste time searching for us before they check the borders. She turned and followed Barkface and Little Cloud at the top of the ridge. J-Paw padded after her. At the top, he glanced backwards, finding only stillness and silence. You go first, Mothwing meowed. She waited for him to scramble down after the others and caught up with him as they followed them down the narrow valley. How's your training going? She asked. Okay, I suppose, J-Paw replied. He thought for a moment. The best bit is sharing with StarClan. He held his breath, waiting to see how she would react. Of course, came the unsatisfying reply. Any tough cases? J-Paw noticed she changed the subject immediately. He thought of Stormfur. One where he has a scratch that won't heal. What are you treating it with? Honey and horsetail poultices, he replied. But he rubs them off as quickly as I put them on. His nest is sticky with honey, and there's a trail of it over half the camp. Have you tried covering the scratches with catchweed after you've put on the poultice? Thank you for the follow, bad dragon toy. Ooh, where was I? J-Paw recalled the feeling of the fuzzy green balls on long clinging stems. The tiny catchweed birds would stick to Stormfur's thick pelt without hurting and stop the poultice from being rubbed. Thanks, he mewed. I'll try it. It helps to share ideas, Mothwing commented. Does StarClan give you good advice too? He asked innocently, but Mothwing appeared not to hear. She was already hurrying to catch up with Willowpaw. J-Paw's mind buzzed with curiosity as they trekked to the WindClan border. Mothwing kept a few paces ahead of him until the cats paused at their meeting place. Goodbye, Little Cloud meowed as he turned towards the lake. See you at the gathering, Mothwing added, dipping her head to Leafpool. Travel carefully, Leafpool called as Little Cloud, Mothwing, and Willowpaw headed lakeward together. I'll remember to leave those herbs for you, Little Cloud. Thanks, Leafpool, the ShadowClan cat called over his shoulder. Barkface crossed the border into his own territory. Take care, he meowed, and you. J-Paw heard the heather rustle as WindClan cat hurried home. Left alone with Leafpool, J-Paw was aware the air had grown colder. He fluffed out his pelt. Frost was forming, stiffening the grass beneath his paws. Dawn must be coming. He padded beside Leafpool into the forest. Do you ever know what the other cats dream about? He asked, trying to sound as if he weren't really bothered. I told you, she answered. We won't discuss it. But all medicine cats have dreams, don't they? Don't they? He pressed. Did she know about Mothwing? Each medicine cat's relationship with StarClan is different. Leafpool spoke carefully, like a cat picking its way through a briar patch. But sharing tongues with StarClan is the most important part of being a medicine cat, isn't it? Any cat could learn to heal his clanmates, but a true medicine cat has to be able to pass on messages from StarClan. There is more to being a good medicine cat than interpreting signs, Leafpool told him firmly. Come on. She broke into a run. The dawn patrol will be heading off soon. She ran the rest of the way through the forest, checking to make sure J-Paw was keeping up, but moving fast enough to keep him too busy to talk. She knows more than she's telling me, he thought, as he followed her scent through the undergrowth. They arrived at camp just as the dawn patrol was preparing to leave. Brambleclaw was pacing restlessly, Ashfur kneading the ground, and Breakenfur sat washing his paws. His eagerness to be off showed in every urgent lick. Brambleclaw halted as Leafpool and J-Paw padded through the thorn barrier. J-Paw sensed his father's relief at their safe return. All well? He called to Leafpool. Everything's fine, she replied as she padded away to her den. Now was J-Paw's chance to share what he'd learned. He scrambled up the tumble of rocks to the high ledge. Firestar! He called, rushing into the leader's den. Firestar twitched in surprise. J-Paw? He meowed. Sandstorm woke up on the other side of the cave. What is it? I had a dream about StarClan, J-Paw began. WindClan is going to be attacked by dogs. He sensed Firestar's tail bristling and went on. This would be a great chance to take some of WindClan territory. They'll be distracted at the other end of the ridge. And there won't be any patrols around to stop us. We can take a strip of trees, the stream. We could become stronger than any of the other clans. ShadowClan would never dare invade us again. Did StarClan tell you this? Why did Firestar sound so wary? J-Paw nodded eagerly. About the dog attack, yeah? Sandstorm fixed J-Paw with her steady green gaze. Are you sure that is what StarClan meant? That we should use the dog attack against our neighboring clans? Why else would they let me hear Telstar's warning? Then Firestar spoke. We will not take advantage of WindClan's troubles, he meowed. But surely StarClan let me share this so we could take advantage of it, J-Paw argued. Are you sure they didn't just want to warn us the dogs were loose nearby? J-Paw's tail twitched in indignation. You weren't there, he snapped. How do you know what StarClan meant? He marched out of the den and bounded down the rocks back to the medicine den. Why don't they believe me? He thought furiously. I'm the one who shared with StarClan. What's the point of being a medicine cat if they don't listen to me? Oh my god. Oh, J-Paw, what a silly goose. Chapter 2. 21, not Chapter 2. Dog attack! Dog attack! Whitewing's yowl jerked Lionpaw from his nest. Instantly awake, he scrambled to the entrance of the den. Berrypaw and Mousepaw had already shot outside. Hollypaw pressed behind him. Her tail was bushed out, her ears flattened, ready to defend her clan. Can you see them? She gasped. Are they nearby the nursery? Hazelpaw called. Lionpaw blinked against the rain. A steady drizzle drenched the camp, and the morning sky was gray with clouds. There was no sign of dogs. Only cats filled the clearing, staring wildly around, their claws unsheathed. Spiderleg and Birchfall came streaking from the warrior's den. Graystripe and Millie skidded after them as Whitewing paced urgently below the high ledge. Where are they? Ferncloud's terrified mew sounded from the nursery. She crouched at the entrance, shielding Foxkit and Icekit, her eyes round with terror. It's just like the badger attack, wailed Daisy, cowering beside her. Firestar leapt down from the high ledge. In one bound, Sandstorm on his heels. Where are the dogs? Whitewing's words came in gasps as she fought to get her breath back. They're not on ThunderClan territory, she panted. Where are they then? Firestar demanded. On WindClan territory, Whitewing reported. I was patrolling with Thornclaw and Cloudtail near the border. We heard dogs barking and cats shrieking from the moor. Where are Thornclaw and Cloudtail now? They went to investigate. StarClan protect them, Ferncloud whimpered. Linepaw's heart was still pounding like a woodpecker on oak. I hope Heatherpaw's okay. Hazelpaw's whiskers grazed his cheek. Is Firestar going to send a patrol? He must! Hollypaw's eyes were round. WindClan could be wiped out. Leafpool rushed out of the medicine den. Any injuries? Whitewing shook her head. We didn't see WindClan. We just heard them screeching, and the dogs, her ears twitched. They were howling for blood. J-Paw flashed a look of triumph at Firestar. Do you believe me now? He mewed, flicking his tail. Lionpaw stared at his brother in surprise. Did you know this was going to happen? Firestar glared at the blind apprentice. This is not about you proving a point. Cat's mate died today. Lionpaw gazed questioningly at Hollypaw, but she looked as puzzled as he was. We must send a patrol to help WindClan, Firestar decided. Spiderleg blinked. Have you forgotten the last time we fought dogs? We lost warriors that day, Sandstorm remembered grimly. It's up to WindClan to look after themselves, J-Paw growled. Firestar glanced at Brightheart. She had lost half her face when she'd confronted a pack of vicious dogs many moons ago. What do you think? He asked gently. We nearly lost everything when the dogs attacked us. She held her head high, but Lionpaw could see that she was trembling. We can't let the same thing happen to WindClan. But if we go, we risk leading them here, Dustpelt pointed out. They might find their way here anyways, Firestar meowed. Brambleclaw nodded. WindClan territory is too close to our own to ignore this, he agreed. Exactly. Firestar gazed at each of his warriors. You will be risking your lives to save WindClan, but you will also be defending ThunderClan from a deadly enemy. We must help them, Birchfall called. Spiderleg paced in an agitated circle. We have to drive the dogs away. Linepaw clawed the ground. I hope I get to go. Ashfur, Greystripe, Brambleclaw called. You fought dogs before. I'll need your experience. Birchfall and Spiderleg, you come too. Linepaw lifted his muzzle. What about me? Brambleclaw glanced at Ashfur. Is he ready? Ashfur gave a quick nod. Okay. Brambleclaw meowed. Millie! He swung his head towards the kitty pet. You know about dogs from when you lived in the two-leg place, don't you? Millie nodded. They don't scare me, she meowed, and I know how easy they are to trick. Good. Brambleclaw nodded. Come with us, then. He turned to his apprentice. You too, Berrypaw. Berrypaw unsheathed his claws, his eyes shining. Shall I come too? Whitewing meowed. Yes. We'll need you to show us which way Thornclaw and Cloudtail went. The deputy told her. What about me? Hollypaw was staring hopefully up at her father. He shook his head, and Lionpaw saw disappointment cloud his sister's gaze. I need you to stay here and help break and guard the camp, Brambleclaw explained. Someone will have to patrol the entrance and make sure no dogs get in if we can't stop them at the border. Hollypaw flicked her tail. Yes, Brambleclaw. The deputy glanced at Firestar. Will One Star accept our help? I think so. One Star's proud, but he's no fool, Firestar meowed. Ashfur? Ferncloud had left the nursery and was padding towards her brother. Linepaw knew that their mother, Brindleface, had been killed by Tigerstar to give the other dog packs a taste for cat's blood. Ferncloud would have only the worst memories of dogs. Be careful. The she-cat rubbed her cheek along Ashfur's. Don't forget I've outrun a dog pack before, he meowed. You had me at your side then, she reminded him. And now I have you and your kits to protect. He licked her between the ears. I won't let you down. Brambleclaw was racing towards the entrance. Ashfur spun and pelted after him, falling in behind Greystripe and Millie. Birchfall and Spiderleg dashed after them, and Linepaw followed, Berrypaw's pelt brushing his as they raced side by side. The patrol pounded out of the camp, picking up speed as it headed up the slope towards the WindClan border. Would they get there in time? What if the dogs were already at the border? Images of vicious fangs flashed in Linepaw's mind, making his tail tremble. He unsheathed his claws and pushed harder against the sodden earth. His pelt was plastered against his skin by the time they reached the border. He scanned the moorland as the patrol streamed up into WindClan's territory, but the wind drove the rain into his eyes. A distant howl ripped the air. A panicked meow shrieked from over the heather. We have to lead them away from camp. This way, Whitewing called, taking the lead. Linepaw could smell Thornclaw's scent on the heather as they charged up the moor. Berrypaw pulled ahead of him, his drenched cream fur bristling into spines. Linepaw lengthened his stride. The springy grass beneath his paws made it easy to speed along between the gorse thickets. Ahead, he could see Brambleclaw's powerful shoulders rise and fall as the warrior bounded through the dripping heather. A shaggy-haired black and white shape streaked across the grass. Ahead, it sped swiftly over the rough moorland, yelping and snarling. Two cats fled only tail lengths ahead of it, snapping jaws. Linepaw recognized the black pelt of Crowfeather, and, with a jolt of panic, he saw Heatherpaw beside him, her brown pelt pale against the grass. They're leading it away from camp, Brambleclaw realized. He skidded to a halt, and the patrol pulled up beside him. Linepaw dug his claws into the earth and slammed to a stop. The sickened dog was pelting in another direction, its shoulders pumping as it sped across the grass. Two more WindClan warriors, one black, one light brown, swerved out from the heather ahead of it. The dog spotted them and chased them down the rock-strewn slope. Its eyes flashed with triumph, and its yelps grew higher-pitched as it began to catch up. Suddenly, Thornclaw and Dustpelt darted out from the rocks at the foot of the slope. They raced side by side up the hillside, past the two WindClan cats. Linepaw stared in shock. They were headed straight for the dog. The dog's eyes gleamed as they drew nearer. Then they parted, like a stream breaking around a rock. The dog twisted and lunged at Thornclaw. Lionpaw heard Whitewing gasp in terror as its jaws closed only an inch from Thornclaw's flank. The ThunderClan warrior ducked into a narrow crack between the rocks and left the dog spinning in confusion as the WindClan cats and Cloudtail raced away from it. I told you dogs were dumb, Millie growled. They can only think of one thing at a time. Then let's give them as much to think about as we can, Brambleclaw decided. He flicked his tail towards a long dip in the earth, lined with craggy boulders. Ashfur, you and Lionpaw lead one of the dogs down there, and we'll ambush it from above. Lionpaw's heart twisted with fear and excitement. No. Ashfur's mew was firm. It'll be safer to face them on open land. Brambleclaw narrowed his eyes and stared at the gray warrior. His shoulders tensed, but Ashfur met his gaze unflinchingly. I won't lead Lionpaw into a trap, Ashfur insisted. We need room to dodge out of the way. The dogs are bigger and faster, but we're more agile. Lionpaw heard a low growl in Brambleclaw's throat. Then the ThunderClan deputy nodded. Okay. Take Birchfall and Lionpaw. Catch up to Crowfeather and Heatherpaw. Together you may be able to put up a fight. I'll take Spiderleg and Berrypaw and help Nightcloud and Owlwhisker. Lionpaw guessed he was referring to the black and light brown cats that he had seen near the rocks. Graystripe, Millie, look for more dogs. Find the camp and help any cat who needs it. Graystripe nodded and harried away across the grass with Millie. Lionpaw pelted after Ashfur as the warrior headed towards Crowfeather and Heatherpaw. The two WindClan cats were still keeping the dog away from the camp, their paws sending up clumps of moss as they skimmed over the wet grass. The dogs pounded after them, but as they swerved one way and then the other, sending it skidding off course long enough to pull ahead for a while. They must be exhausted, Lionpaw thought, pushing himself as fast as he could. He could not take his eyes off Heatherpaw. She raced bravely beside her mentor, her pelt slick with rain, following his movements step for step. Lionpaw, get your head out of the... Get your head out of it! Get back to the reason at hand. Crowfeather! Ashfur yowled to the WindClan warrior as he cut across their path. Crowfeather stared in surprise. We've come to help, Lionpaw called to Heatherpaw. She jerked her head to look at him and stumbled. A rabbit hole had caught her paw, and she crashed into the ground. Lionpaw gasped in horror as the dog swung towards her. Without thinking, he turned and raced for the dog. Crowfeather had already swerved to a halt and was headed back to help his apprentice. Birchfall sped after Lionpaw. Ashfur yowled a battle cry and joined the chase. Heatherpaw struggled to her paws and began to run, but the dog was nearly on top of her. Screeching in fury, Lionpaw launched himself at the dog's flank and gripped its coarse pelt. The dog yelped and spun, snapping at Lionpaw, but unable to reach him. Lionpaw hauled his way onto the dog's back and dug in his claws. The dog tried to shake him off, but Lionpaw would not let go. Crowfeather leapt on the dog's face, raking its muzzle before swerving away from it. Ashfur darted underneath the dog's paws, nipping its forelegs so viciously that blood splurted from the wound. Lionpaw felt the dog stumble beneath him and dug his claws in harder. The dog, yowling in pain, tried to shake off Lionpaw again. Lionpaw held on, looking for Heatherpaw, desperate to see if she was safe. His heart plummeted when he saw her pale brown pelt flash towards the dog. What are you doing? He screeched. Helping you, she yowled back. She darted behind the dog and ranked its hind legs with her claws. The dog yelped and fell. It rolled onto Lionpaw, and he shrieked in surprise. The wet, mossy earth cushioned him as the dog scrambled off him and turned, its jaws dripping with blood and foam as it lunged towards him with a snarl. Lionpaw flipped onto his paws and darted out of the way. He heard jaws snap behind him and then another agonized yelp. He turned to see Ashfur rearing at the dog, slashing its muzzle with his forepaw. Crowfeather and Birchfall joined him while Heatherpaw dashed behind the dog and snapped at its hind legs. Lionpaw raced to help her, and together they slashed and nipped and clawed until the dog turned tail and fled. Lionpaw began to give chase, but Ashfur called him back. I think it's had enough. Lionpaw skidded to a halt and watched the massive dog howl away from its attackers. Where was the other dog? He glanced around and saw with a thrill that it was already racing away into the heather. It splattered the bushes with blood as it hurried to catch up to its companion. Graystripe padded out from the gorse, his fur hanging out in clumps, and one ear stained with blood, but his eyes shining. Millie emerged beside him, followed by Torn Ear and Hairpaw. Where's Brambleclaw? Ashfur called. Here! Bramaclaw's deep mew sounded from the heather on the slope above them. He bounded out from the springy bushes, Spiderleg, Nightcloud, and Owlwhisker following. WindClan owe you a debt of thanks, Crowfeather meowed formally. Bramaclaw dipped his head. May we accompany you back to camp? I want to be sure that all is well there. Crowfeather narrowed his eyes, then nodded. Follow us, he meowed, turning and heading away over the grass. Lionpaw fell in beside Heatherpaw as they followed their mentors back to the WindClan camp. The rain was beginning to ease, but Lionpaw could still feel water running along his whiskers. Are you okay? He whispered. She glanced at him with her soft gaze. I'm fine. Lionpaw's pelt was stinging from being scratched by the gorse, but his body ached where the dog had fallen on him. And he was thankful for the mossy earth that had softened the fall, but he was also proud of his scars. This time he had won them defending another clan. You were very brave, leaping on the dog like that, Heatherpaw mewed. She pointed ahead with her muzzle. We're here, she told him. Gorse and heather interlaced with prickling brambles formed a barrier around a dip in the earth. Lionpaw followed Heatherpaw as she wove her way through a complicated tunnel. Suddenly, they emerged into a clearing open to gray sky around its edge. Lionpaw saw tunnels leading into thick hedge, and he guessed that this was where the dens were hidden. As the patrol entered the camp, faces peered from the dens, and cats began to creep out into the open. A kit was squealing, its tiny cry filled with fear. Hush, buzzard Kit, a queen soothed from somewhere deep inside the brambles. One Star slid out from a tunnel near from where the kits was still mewling. We've chased them off, Tornia reported. Good. How are the kits? Crowfeather asked. Frightened, but they'll recover. More WindClan cats began to emerge. Lionpaw recognized some from the gathering. They all stared warily at the ThunderClan cats. Firestar set up patrol to help, Crowfeather told One Star. The WindClan leader let his gaze slide over the ThunderClan cats. WindClan thanks you, he meowed, dipping his head. We heard the dogs from the border, Bramaclaw explained. I hope you will forgive us crossing the marker, but we were not sure how many dogs threatened you. Fortunately, we knew they were coming thanks to Barkface. One Star nodded to the brown medicine cat. StarClan warned him, and we had a plan ready to draw them away from camp. Lionpaw looked at Barkface in surprise, so J-Paw had not been the only cat whom StarClan had warned about the dogs. Your plan was working, Brambleclaw meowed. But we could never have chased off the dogs without you, Heatherpaw put in. The dogs were faster than I ever imagined. She glanced sideways at Lionpaw. Lionpaw saved me from one of them. Crowfeather instantly weaved between the two apprentices, blocking their brew. Oh my god. He's like, I know what this will lead to. I've been there. That was brave, Lionpaw, but WindClan is perfectly capable of taking care of its own cats. Lionpaw felt anger flare inside him. No other cat had been near enough to the dog to reach it before it had harmed Heatherpaw, but Ashfur silenced him with a warning twitch of his tail, and Lionpaw looked down at his paws. The brambles shivered as Breezepaw reared into camp. No damage to the barrier, he called. Have you checked it all the way around? Crowfeather asked. Breezepaw glared at his father. Of course! That's what Whitetail ordered me to do. Nightcloud stepped forward. You should have more faith in our son, Crowfeather, she chided. Whitetail's my mentor, not you, Breezepaw added. Is that the kitty pet? A brown kit had crept out of the tunnel behind One Star. She was staring at Millie with round eyes. The other clan cats turned to look at Millie, their expression mistrustful. I'm training to be a warrior now, Millie told the little cat. But you can't ever be a real A molted tabby queen hurried out of the tunnel. Sage Kit, come away, she called. You'll get wet out here. Sage Kit glared at her mother and stomped back inside. We should go, Ramaclaw meowed. He dipped his head to One Star. Those dogs won't dare come near this part of your territory again. If they do, we can manage them by ourselves, Breezepaw muttered. Breezepaw, Nightcloud snapped. Heatherpaw might have been hurt without this brave apprentice. She blinked gratefully at Lionpaw. Lionpaw glanced away, conscious that Heatherpaw wouldn't have stumbled if he hadn't distracted her. Do you need some herbs for your wounds? Heatherpaw asked. Linepaw shook his head. Leafpaw will treat them when we get home. Brambleclaw turned and headed out of the camp. The rest of the patrol filed after him. As they followed the twisting tunnel back up to the moorland, Linepaw thought about what Jaypaw had said to Firestar. Had he known that the dogs would come too? Had Firestar really refused to believe his brother's warning? Surely he would believe him next time. Jaypaw had been right. But thoughts of his brother quickly slid away, to be replaced by the memory of the heather-colored eyes and a soft voice asking if he needed herbs. Bruh, stop crushing. No crushing allowed! Guys, there is nothing like Barks root beer. Sometimes you just need that, like, that spicy root beer taste. Nothing's, I mean, it's still sweet, but nothing like, A&W's is too sweet for me. But Barks root beer is just, it just hits a spot. Hits a good spot. It is so nice. I need to get more. I got some last night and I've just been drinking. Very nostalgic drink for me too. You know what I want? I want like, not, would you call it fresh root beer? Like just like really like, would you call root beer tangy? Spicy? A really spicy root beer. Like a home brewed brand of root beer that's spicy and earthy and, you know, really feels like you're tasting the earth's roots. Spicy like an actual spice, not the hot kind. Yeah. Can you imagine a spicy root beer, but not that spicy? Hot spicy, not hot spicy. I'll get some more today. When we grocery shop. Grocery shop. I don't know who that is. Felt like I was missing something, but I can't remember. All right, chapter 22. What time is it? So we got like another half hour in a bit. Tomorrow, before I forget, tomorrow I am probably going to be having a stream, like a collab with Dun and Serin. Collab tomorrow? Let me check. Oh, Dun's streaming right now. Finally playing it. FNAF Help Wanted 2. Oh, yeah, we're going to be playing more Terraria. The Terraria server that me and Dun had started, but Serin's gonna come join us. We were gonna play last week, but then I got sick. So we're gonna play tomorrow. It'll be fun and goofy, I think. And then we'll go back to Baldur's Gate because I have been hoping it. Last time I was gonna have a date with Shadowheart, and then dang, Asteron wanted to be a vampire and suck my blood, so that happened instead of my date, which was really sad and very heartbreaking. So I want to go on my date with Shadowheart. So that'll be Saturday. Yes, Saturday. So those are the lineups. Hot vampire ruining all the fun, right? The heck? I have to like eat my blood. Couldn't he like bite a little mouse instead? Shake my head, shake my head. Yippee! Right, chapter 22. The quarter moon has passed. Gray clouds hung heavy over the forest. Jaypaw shivered, his pelt damp from the rain. I'm going to my nest, he mewed, nodding goodnight to Hollypaw and Linepaw as they finished their evening meal beside the Halfrock. Hollypaw looked up. Already? I'm tired. You want to get out of the rain, more like, Lionpaw joked. J-Paw growled. It wasn't the dampness that made him want to leave. Lionpaw had gone on about the battle against the dogs for days, and J-Paw didn't want to hear it all again tonight. He already guessed that Lionpaw had taken off his cobweb dressings early so he'd have some scars to show his clanmates. J-Paw thrust his way crossly through the bramble entrance to the medicine cat den. The only scars he'd ever get to show his clanmates would be from falling down rabbit holes. Why couldn't he do something real to help his clan, like Lionpaw? He had patched up his clanmates after they'd driven the dogs away, but that wasn't the same as fighting on behalf of his clan. Sounds like it's still raining, Leafpool commented as he padded into the den. It's not as heavy now, J-Paw told her. Well, at least there may be new herbs to gather by full moon, she mewed hopefully. J-Paw wasn't so sure. The air had been tinged all day with the raw scents of the mountains. He had a feeling that ice would claw the forest once more before new leaf brought fresh life. Perhaps we should look for the first leaves tomorrow, he suggested and curled into his nest before frost has a chance to destroy them. Perhaps, Leafpool murmured, already half asleep, but let's not gather them too early before they've had time to grow. J-Paw wanted to argue, to point out the change in the wind, but since Firestar had dismissed his warning about the dogs, he had burned with resentment. What's the point in warning them if they only ignore my advice? To be fair, J-Paw, all right, to be fair, you did come telling him that the dogs were attacking, so you guys should invade WindClan at the same time. You didn't say, hey, Firestar, there are dogs gonna be coming to WindClan. Take that as you will. Maybe send a patrol to help them. Maybe send a patrol to take their border. I don't know. He just said that one thing. So Firestar was more likely dismissing the fact that he was like telling him to invade WindClan while they were being attacked by dogs, rather than the fact that dogs were going to be attacking. Oh, J-Paw. J-Paw has the brain that Tiger Star and Hawkfrost would love. Like, he's instantly like, we need to think of our clan. We could rule the forest if we do this, this, this. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. J-Paw bro. J-Paw did not dream, and when he lifted his nose from his nest at dawn, the sharp tang of ice in the air stung his nose. He knew without a doubt that the heavy frost lay thick over the forest. He stretched and realized that Leafpool was already awake, breaking through her herb supplies. We should have gathered herbs yesterday, she fretted. Are we running low? J-Paw padded sleepily to her side. He could tell that some scents were missing from the pungent mixture of smells. This is the worst time of year, Leafpool sighed. There are precious few fresh herbs, and the clan is at its weakest after a long leaf bare. At least there's been more prey since the last frost, J-Paw pointed out. It'll have all bolted back into its burrows now, Leafpool warned. Some of the warriors will go to their nests hungry tonight. The frozen brambles at the entrance to the den crackled, and J-Paw scented Longtail pushing his way through. His anxiety turned to irritation. No wonder supplies were running low. He had been doing nothing but padding back and forth to the Elder's den with herbs from Mousefur. The elderly warrior claimed she was fine, but Longtail kept worrying over her like a fretful queen fussing over her kit. Mousefur's wheezing, Longtail announced. Of course she's wheezing, J-Paw thought irritably. She's older than in the Sky Oak, and it's freezing. He turned to the pale tabby elder. We've tried just about every herb. Let's try juniper berries this time, Leafpool suggested. Or a paw full of poppy seeds, J-Paw muttered to himself. She might sleep long enough to give me a break. Here. Leafpool rolled a paw full of small herbs towards J-Paw. Take these to her. Their aromatic flavor filled his nose. He bent and picked them up carefully between his jaws. Then he turned and followed Longtail back to the elder's den. The twinning honeysuckle was stripped of its green leaf foliage. The drafts whipped around the den like swirling water. J-Paw, Mousefur greeted him. You're not back again. Her voice seemed scour her throat like dried thistles. You should be with your cats your own age instead of spending every waking moment here. J-Paw's tail twitched with frustration. If only. He's here so often only because he's worried about you, Longtail meowed. Because you're worried about me, Mousefur corrected. You really shouldn't fuss so much. A cat my age is bound to feel the cold more easily. But your eyes and nose are streaming. Longtail pointed out. That's just the cold air, Mousefur croaked. I can get Brambleclaw to organize some warriors to pad your den walls if you'd like, J-Paw suggested. That would be kind, Mousefur admitted. The chill does seem to have reached right to my bones this morning. J-Paw nosed the berries towards her. He could tell she was shivering, and yet heat flooded from her. It seemed strange, but he had been to check on her so many times, he still thought Longtail was fussing over nothing. I'll speak to Brambleclaw, he promised. Perhaps if he got their den fixed, the two elders could manage without him for a while. He turned and padded out of the den, lifting his nose to scent for Brambleclaw. As he scanned the camp, he stopped dead. A tiny prick of doubt, which had been smothered by irritation by the two elders, broke through. Mousefur had accepted his help too easily, and her breathing was irregular. He swung his muzzle back towards the den. The pungent juniper berries had masked another smell, the smell of illness. Mousefur was really sick. He pelted towards the medicine den, his paws skimming over the icy ground. Crashing through the patch of brambles, he skidded to a halt. Leafpool's pelt bristled in alarm. J-Paw! Mousefur has green cough. Are you sure? J-Paw listed the symptoms. Irregular breathing, streaming eyes and nose, wheezing, fever. Fever! That explained the heat he felt coming off her in waves. We need catmint, Leafpool meowed, rushing out of the medicine cat den. J-Paw knew that catmint was one of the missing scents that when Leafpool had raked through the herbs earlier. He followed his mentor and paced anxiously as she called to Cloudtail. You must fetch catmint, Leafpool explained as the warrior came racing to the medicine cat's side. At once! Surprise sparked from the warrior. Catmint? Why? Leafpool's pelt ruffled with uncertainty. She obviously didn't want to spread panic through the clan. She lowered her voice. Mousefur is ill. Cloudtail kneed the ground anxiously. Where do I get it from? By the old two-leg nest. Leafpool told him. I know what it smells like, J-Paw mewed. I'll be able to find it. He sensed Cloudtail's doubt at once. Medicine cats can run, you know, and I'll be able to spot it quicker than you. He's right, Leafpool agreed. Okay, Cloudtail mewed. We'll take Cinderpaw with us. She can help carry it back. He called across the clearing to his apprentice. She was sharing tongues with Poppypaw, but at Cloudtail's call, her small steps came puttering towards them over the frosty ground. What is it? We have to find catmint, J-Paw told her. Mousefur is ill. Cinderpaw gasped. Catmint's for green cough, isn't it? Come on, Cloudtail ordered. There's no time to waste. He raced towards the thorn barrier, and J-Paw hurried after him. Once out of the camp, they headed straight for the disused thunderpath. J-Paw could feel Cloudtail's eyes flashing back at him as the warrior checked that their blind companion was keeping up. But J-Paw's paws were swift with fear, and he easily kept pace with Cinderpaw. He could feel her warm pelt rippling beside his, and he matched her step for step. Tree! She warned him, but he had already scented its bark and swerved to avoid it. He couldn't stop thinking about Mousefur. Why hadn't he realized that she was so unwell? Longtail had been trying to tell him for days. Guilt gnawed at his belly. Once they had catmint, he would feed it to her himself until she was fully recovered. The sharp little stones on the abandoned thunderpath grazed J-Paw's pads, but he quickened his pace, pulling ahead of Cinderpaw. Cloudtail halted by the crumbling stone wall around the nest. J-Paw felt a twinge of nerves. Although he knew the place was empty, it felt dangerous to be going into two-leg territory. Cloudtail jumped up onto the wall first. It's not high, Cinderpaw mewed. J-Paw reached up with his forepaws, and Cloudtail flicked his tail down to give him some sort of sense on how far to jump. He sprang, and as he scrambled to get a grip, Cloudtail grabbed him by the scruff and swung him over the wall, onto the long, frost-stiffened grass on the other side. As soon as he landed, J-Paw sniffed the air, searching for the catmint. He found a trace of it and began picking his way through the grass. Leave for me, Cinderpaw called. Jumping down after him, she hurried to catch up. Cloudtail's keeping guard on the wall, she panted. It's over here, he told her. Cinderpaw sped ahead, and J-Paw could hear her rooting around the vegetation along the wall. There's nothing here but dead leaves, she called back to him. The frost has killed it all. J-Paw's belly heaved, and the ground seemed to drop away from beneath his paws. There had been catmint here. Let me look, he mewed. He rushed over to Cinderpaw and sniffed at the plants around her paws. He could smell catmint, but it was sour, scorched by the frost. It's all black, Cinderpaw sighed. J-Paw touched it with the tip of his tongue. The leaves felt pulpy and wet, but a delicious flavor seeped from deeper within the plant. He dug down, fearful of damaging roots that might yet recover, but desperate to find something that would help Mousefur. Around the base, just beneath the soil, he smelt fresh leaves. Feeling carefully with the tips of his paws, he touched the soft furriness of new growth. Not much, but it was better than nothing. He scraped away the earth and delicately nipped off the new stalks with his teeth. Then, holding them gently on his tongue, trying not to absorb any of the precious flavor, he nodded to Cinderpaw. Will that be enough? She asked. Unable to speak, he shrugged. She seemed to understand, for she turned away and began to hurry back to where Cloudtail waited in the wall. Together they scrambled over and set off back to camp. This is all that was left undamaged, he explained to Leafpool as he dropped the mouthfuls of stalk on the floor of the medicine den. He could feel disappointment turning her paws to stone. It's better than nothing, she meowed. She picked up the stalks with her teeth and hurried out of the den. J-Paw followed her. Would Mousefur be worse? The old she-cat's labored breathing echoed around the honeysuckle bush. The air smelled bitter, and it pricked with Longtail's anxiety. Is that catmint? He asked hopefully. Leafpool dropped it beside Mousefur. Yes. There's not much, Longtail observed. It'll have to do, Leafpool told him. Frost had damaged the rest. She crouched down and whispered to Mousefur, I want you to chew this and swallow as much as you can. Mousefur groaned. J-Paw slid around beside the old she-cat and pressed his cheek to her flank. She was burning with a fever and trembling. Then she coughed, and he heard her breath bubbling beneath his ear. He jerked up his head and stared desperately at Leafpool. She may be old, but she's strong, the medicine cat reassured him. Then she urged Mousefur, Come on, eat a little. The old cat took a few stalks in her mouth and began to chew. J-Paw felt her pain like thorns in his pelt as she swallowed. She must have seen him flinch, for she lifted her muzzle towards him so that her sour breath ruffled her fur. What the fuss you're making over me, she rasped. Anyone would think I was about to join StarClan. She forced a purr, and J-Paw felt the pain of it shake her body. I don't think they're ready for me yet. And besides, if I go, who will make sure Longtail remembers to check his pelt for fleas? You'll be better in no time, J-Paw told her, willing it to be true. Paw steps padded quickly outside the den, and the honeysuckle rustled. J-Paw smelt Daisy's scent at the entrance. Leafpool? The kitty pet sounded worried. Leafpool lifted her head. Yes? Ferncloud is unwell. Alarm shot through J-Paw. What's wrong? Leafpool asked. This is Daisy. I forgot I gave her a country accent. She's wheezing, and her eyes and nose are steaming. Mousefur let out an agonized groan. I went to the nursery yesterday to see the kids, she croaked. Foxkit and Icekit seem fine, Daisy mewed at once. I'll come check on Ferncloud, Leafpool meowed. Shall I stay with Mousefur? J-Paw offered. No, Mousefur began to cough. Check on the kids. She pushed the rest of the catmint away from her. Don't waste your time fussing over an old warrior like me. You must take these herbs, Leafpool insisted, pawing them back under Mousefur's nose. You're not as strong as Ferncloud. Check on the kids first, Mousefur answered stubbornly. Okay, I will. Leafpool slipped out of the elder's den. J-Paw followed her as she raced across the clearing. He squeezed into the nursery behind her. The familiar smell of his old home was tainted by the smell of sickness. Ferncloud was struggling for breath, and even without touching her, J-Paw could feel the heat pulsing from her body. It's definitely green cough, Leafpool announced, but the kids are not infected. We should get Ferncloud away from them, J-Paw suggested. I can look after them instead. Daisy had followed them into the nursery. They're close enough to weaning now. Thank you. Leafpool meowed, nudging Ferncloud to her paws. Grief flashed from Ferncloud as Foxkit and Icekit began mewling. I'll be back soon, she promised weakly. Daisy's fur brushed their tiny pelts as she curled around them. We'll have fun with all this space to ourselves, she told them. Ferncloud's just be across the clearing. She's not leaving camp. Why can't she stay here? Foxkit wailed. Because we don't want you getting sick too, Daisy explained. Be good. Ferncloud mewed, her breath coming up in gasps as Leafpool began to guide her from the den. Don't worry, we'll be fine, Ice Kit called. J-Paw could sense the anxiety behind Ice Kit's brave words. He flicked his tail over her back. I'll ask Colliepot to come and teach you all the new fighting moves she's been learning, he offered. Really? Ice Kit squeaked, brightening. Fetch Mousefur, Leafpool called him from outside. We'll settle both cats in the medicine cat den where we can keep an eye on them. J-Paw's heart began pounding again as he scrabbled out of the nursery. He had wanted the chance to protect his clanmates, but a warrior could do it with teeth and claws, while all what he had to offer was a paw full of pulpy roots. How could this be his destiny? Hi, Naoki! My roommate seems like she got a call. How are you, Naoki? I hope you're well. Wow! I don't know what that means, but that's cool. Thank you. I hope you have a nice day too. I drank all my root beer. I'm root beerless. The beer is rooted. So sad. Dawn brought another victim. J-Paw was woken by White Wing as she limped into the medicine den, tail down and wheezing. That's understandable. Don't worry about it. He had learned the deadly scent of green cough by now and sprang from his nest, but Leafpool was already beside the white warrior, listening to her breathing. Make a nest for her beside Ferncloud and Mousefur, she ordered J-Paw. He hurried to fetch some of the spare moss they kept at the side of the den. At least they had plenty of that, he thought bitterly. He quickly shaped a nest beside Mousefur, who was sleeping at last, her breathing short and irregular. And Ferncloud seemed to be comfortable, though her fever was rising as she battled the illness. White Wing collapsed gratefully into the nest. We need more catmint, Leafpool hissed so that only J-Paw's sharp ears could hear. J-Paw sensed terror in her voice. What did she expect him to do? Grow some? Check on all the other warriors and apprentices, Leafpool ordered more loudly. He nodded, then turned and headed out of the den. Why hadn't StarClan warned them this was going to happen? Instead of lecturing him, Spotted Leaf or Yellowfang could have told him that Green Cough was coming. He could have gathered catmint before the frost had come. Dustpelt was pacing outside the nursery. J-Paw recognized the warrior's heavy paw steps on the frozen earth and sensed the turmoil of fear that gripped his thoughts. How's Ferncloud? He demanded as soon as he saw J-Paw. No worse, J-Paw assured her. Should I visit her? It's probably better you just stay away, J-Paw advised. We want to stop the illness from spreading. Daisy wriggled out from the nursery. Your kits are fine, she told Dustpelt, but if you keep hanging around here, you're going to worry them. J-Paw had never heard her sound so stern. You should be out in the forest hunting. That's the best way you can help him. J-Paw felt a flash of surprise from Dustpelt. I want to know if Ferncloud gets worse, the warrior meowed. Then he padded towards the barrier of thorns and headed out into the forest. As J-Paw turned towards the apprentice den, the dawn patrol pounded into the clearing, led by Graystripe. Hollypaw was among them, her scent laced with the fresh smells of the forest. How are the sick cats? She called to J-Paw. Sleeping, J-Paw mewed back. How's the prey running? Perhaps if the rest of the clan could fill their bellies, then they might be able to resist the sickness. There's hardly anything above ground, Hollypaw reported. Even the squirrels are staying in their dens. J-Paw closed his eyes. Where are you, StarClan? I've hardly had a dream without you sticking your whiskers in. Why don't you help me now? But he heard nothing except Leafpool's voice as she padded to his side. Check the apprentices, J-Paw, she reminded him grimly. StarClan are watching us already, but there are some battles we have to fight alone. It's interesting to see, like, how J-Paw... Sorry, I leaned too far from the side. How J-Paw, like, reacts to this, because this is what a medicine cat is, right? Like, this is a battle for a medicine cat. So it'll be exciting to see what he thinks of after it's done, or if he gets a feeling of triumph when somebody starts healing, because we don't really know, right? Like what J-Paw thinks yet, because he's been forced into it and he thinks it's boring up until this moment. We'll see. Thank you for the hydrate. I drank all my. Oh, I have some coffee, but it's not the same as root beer. Sneef, sneef. Let me see. Today's also rent day, which is sad. Let me check to see if I paid rent. I'm dreaming of what? Rent was paid. Okay. Chapter 23. Dawn's coming, Leafpool whispered to J-Paw. You should get some rest. J-Paw shook his head. Not while we have so many sick cats to look after. He sniffed Poppy Paw. The apprentice had developed a fever during the night and came to the medicine cat den. She laid now in a nest beside Ferncloud, her eyes sticky with pus, her breathing labored. The heat flooding from her frightened J-Paw. He listened, his pelt pricking with panic. The medicine cat den was crowded. The sound of wheezing and coughing jarred his ears, and the smell of sickness made his paws tremble with frustration. He had done everything he could to help his clanmates, but no one was any better. Should we move them to the elder's den? He suggested to Leafpool, who was massaging Mousefur's flank to help clear her breathing. There's more room there. Mousefur and Ferncloud are too sick to move, Leafpool pointed out. Besides, there is water here. The pool of fresh water that trickled down the rock wall and gathered in a dip made it easy to soak moss for the thirsty cats. J-Paw fetched a dripping ball of it for Poppy Paw. He nudged her in an attempt to make her drink. But the tortoiseshell's eyes were half closed, and she only groaned and pushed it away. If you won't rest, at least get some fresh air, Leafpool urged. J-Paw nodded. Wearily, he padded out of the den. The air outside was clean and cold after the stuffy stench of the den. Even though it was barely dawn, Firestar was already below the high ledge with Brambleclaw. They were organizing the patrols. Ashfur and Birchpaw paced restlessly around them. We need to keep the patrols short, Brambleclaw meowed to the ThunderClan leader. We must make sure that ShadowClan border remains well guarded, Ashfur pointed out. We don't want them to take advantage of our weakness. Lots of small patrols would be more efficient, Birchpaw suggested. Yes, Firestar agreed. I don't want our warriors to wear themselves out when there's so much sickness around. We need them fit. I can do 2 patrols a day, Millie's mew rang around the frozen hollow. The gray kitty pit padded out from behind the warrior's den, Graystripe at her side. Are you sure? I was given medicine by the vet to stop me from getting sick, Millie explained. Whenever other cats fell ill in Two-Leg Place, I always stayed well. Dang, Millie has the vaccines. Brambleclaw looked confused. Vet? The cutter, Graystripe explained. Well, it seems the cutter has done me a favor, Firestar meowed. He has given me a healthy warrior. Firestar had called Millie a warrior. Pleasure glowed from the she-cat, and J-Paw heard Graystripe's proud purr as his fur swished against hers. But, Firestar went on, I don't want Graystripe to go with you. Graystripe's fur died in his throat. Why not? You're still weak from your journey, Firestar replied, and I can't afford to lose you again. There are plenty of ways you can help in camp. The ThunderClan leader's voice was firm, and though J-Paw felt Graystripe bristle with indignation, he did not challenge his old friend. The yew bush quivered as Hollypaw and Linepaw slid out of their den. Anxiously, J-Paw lifted his muzzle to taste their scent. He relaxed when it was clean and healthy. We want to go on the first patrol, Linepaw mewed. Unless the clan needs us in camp, Hollypaw added. Firestar? Brambleclaw looked to the ThunderClan leader to decide. Firestar swept his tail thoughtfully over the ground. Linepaw, you can patrol the border with Ashfur and Millie. He meowed. Hollypaw can hunt with Birchfall. I'll do my best, Hollypaw promised. J-Paw padded over to her. Make sure you stay away from the sick cats. he warned. Don't share fresh kill with any cat. He glanced at Linepaw. And drink water as far from the camp as you can. How would he cope if he had to watch them suffer along with his other patients? If only they had more catmint. Come on, Hollypaw. Richfell's call was edgy with impatience, and she shot away to join him. We'll join the hunt as soon as we've checked the border, Ashfur called after them as they raced out of the camp. Don't tire yourselves out, Firestar warned. We won't. Linepaw raced away from Jaypaw and pounded out of the camp behind his mentor. A dark sense of dread pulsed across the clearing and swept Jaypaw like an icy wind. He jerked his head around and stared at Firestar. He's terrified for us. Paws hammered outside the thorn barrier. Squirrelflight and Sandstorm were returning to camp. Jaypaw smelled fresh kill. They had been hunting. Is that all you could find? Jaypaw's greeting was sharp with shock. A mouse and a sparrow. Jaypaw heard the two small bodies drop onto the empty space where the fresh kill pile used to be. Shall we go out again? Squirrelflight offered. Rest first, Firestar meowed. Birchfall and Hollypaw are hunting too. His pelt swished as he wove around Sandstorm. Jaypaw sensed that her touch soothed some of the anxiety pounding through his body. The smell of fresh kill made his belly rumble. He hadn't eaten since yesterday, but Icekit and Foxkit needed more food than he did. Shall I take the mouse to the nursery? He called to Firestar. Yes, please. Firestar's answer was cut short by rustling on the slope outside the thorn barrier. Jaypaw tensed. He smelled WindClan. Firestar padded to the entrance and sniffed the air. There's only two of them, Jaypaw called. He did not recognize the scents of the two WindClan cats who were padding towards the entrance of the hollow, but he sensed their anxiety as they padded into camp. The older of the two cats spoke first. Forgive us for trespassing on ThunderClan territory. Weaselfur! Firestar sounded surprised. What are you doing here? Jaypaw padded closer. The younger cat smelled of herbs. I've bought Kestrel Paw to speak to Leafpool, Weaselfur meowed. Kestrel Paw. Jaypaw remembered Barkface mentioning his apprentice when they had traveled to the Moonpool. Hi there, he called. Kestrel Paw was fidgeting nervously, kneading the ground. Are you Jaypaw? He asked. I need to speak to your mentor. Leafpool was already out of her den and padding towards Kestrel Paw. What is it? There's green cough in WindClan, Kestrel Paw mewed. Barkface was hoping you could share your catmint. Leafpool sighed. We have none. The frost killed it. We have sick cats too. There's nothing we can do to help them. Squirrelflight padded to join her sister. RiverClan have catmint, she meowed. They would share with us, wouldn't they? I've wondered about that, Leafpool meowed. Jaypaw's tail bristled. Why hadn't she mentioned it before? Let's go and ask them, Kestrel Paw suggested. Mothwing might need all her supplies for her own clan. Leafpool fretted. She wouldn't let our clanmates die if she knew how sick they were, Squirrelflight argued. She might already know. Kestrel Paw pointed out. StarClan might have told her. Yeah, right, thought Jaypaw. Leafpool shuffled her paws. But what if there's green cough in RiverClan too? She couldn't risk giving away her supplies. Jaypaw didn't understand why Leafpool was hesitating. We've got to try, he mewed. This was their chance to save the clan. Squirrelflight's fur was prickling with frustration too. The clans have helped one another before when it's been life or death. I'll go ask RiverClan if you're too scared, Jaypaw put in. I'm not scared, Leafpool growled. I just don't want to put Mothwing in a difficult position. Jaypaw clawed the ground. What would you say if she found out our cats died and you never asked for help? He felt Leafpool's mind recoil with alarm. And something else. The horror of a long-buried memory. She'd be devastated. He pressed. Very well, Leafpool agreed. I'll go and ask her. Jaypaw knew she'd travel faster without him. I'll stay here and look after the sick cats, he offered. Leafpool leaned down and touched her muzzle to his. Thanks, Jaypaw. I'll do my best, he mewed briskly. Then he realized that he would be responsible for every one of his clanmates while Leafpool was away. The thought struck him like a kick to the belly. Bro, you wanted to be important? Now you're important. Leafpool entwined his tail with hers. Rely on your instincts, Jaypaw. They're sharper than any cat's. Wuzzle! He nodded, taking a deep breath. I know all the herbs, he reminded himself, and this is a chance to prove that I can help my clan. Brightheart will help you if necessary, Leafpool went on. She's worked with me before. J-Paw's tail pricked. Brightheart was the last cat he wanted watching him struggle to help his clanmates, but he wasn't going to let Leafpool know that. We'd better get going, Leafpool meowed to the two WindClan cats. Firestar padded over to block the entrance before Leafpool could head out. I want Thornclaw and Brambleclaw to go with you, he meowed. But we're medicine cats, Leafpool pointed out. No cat will dare stop us. You're going to have to skirt the lake around ShadowClan territory, Firestar pointed out. I don't trust ShadowClan right now. Very well, Leafpool meowed. She waited impatiently while Firestar called Thornclaw from the warrior's den, and then the patrol raced out of the camp like rabbits. Sandstorm came up to J-Paw. Can I help with anything? He didn't know where to start. The medicine den was full, fever flu was running short, and he was so hungry he could hardly think straight. The mouse! He suddenly remembered. I was going to take it to the nursery for the kits. I can do that, Sandstorm meowed. You go back to the medicine den. Her steady mew calmed him. Thanks, he murmured. He returned to the den to find that Poppypaw's fever had risen even more. Mousefur's breathing was so shallow that he had to press his muzzle to her flank to feel it. Ferncloud was begging for water, and the bedding stank. StarClan, help me. J-Paw closed his eyes for a moment, summoning all his strength. He went to fetch a wad of soaked moss for Ferncloud. Sandstorm told me you might need some help. Brightheart's voice sounded from the den entrance. Yes. J-Paw's ears twitched nervously, but for the first time in days he felt no anger flash from the one-eyed warrior. Can you help me clear out the old bedding? He asked. I can do the bedding by myself, Brightheart told him. You see to your patience. Something small and sweet-smelling thudded at his paws. Sandstorm said you should eat this. Brightheart had tossed him a piece of the mouse. He shook his head. You have to keep your strength up, Brightheart insisted. While Leafpool's gone, you're responsible for the whole clan. Which meant that until Leafpool returned with Catman, there was nothing he could do except watch his clanmates die. J-Paw felt the same hopelessness as when he flailed his claws at claws at Owlpaw in the battle against ShadowClan, never sure where his enemy would lunge from next. Eat the mouse, Brightheart prompted. Okay. He wasn't going to act like a mewling kit. Did he want every cat to know he couldn't cope? He already thought he was useless. They didn't have to think he was weak and scared too. J-Paw gulped down the morsel, and then, while Brightheart started tugging out the foul bedding, he chewed up mouthfuls of fever flu and tried to persuade Poppypaw to swallow some. Come on, he urged her. Just taste a little. Poppypaw pushed him away with a burning paw. I can't swallow, she rasped. You must try. J-Paw suddenly felt another pelt against his. He smelled Sorreltail, Poppypaw's mother. She's worse, isn't she? The she-cat mewed. Leafpool's gone to WindClan to ask... Gone to RiverClan to ask for Catman, J-Paw told her. But will Poppypaw survive until she returns? Sorreltail's mew cracked with grief. I'll make sure she does, J-Paw growled. He tried to stop his paws from trembling as he pushed the fever flu under Poppypaw's nose again. He had been a medicine cat apprentice for less than a moon. Could he really keep a promise like that? Come on, Brightheart nudged Sorreltail. J-Paw will do what he can. You should go hunting with Breakenfur. The more fresh kill we have, the stronger the clan will be. The one-eyed warrior guided her clanmate out of the medicine den. J-Paw rubbed the fever flu pulp onto Poppypaw's lips, hoping that some of it would find its way into her fever-racked body. For StarClan's sake, eat this and get better. J-Paw woke with a start. He had dozed off without meaning to. The silence of night lay heavily on the forest. An owl hooted far away as J-Paw struggled to his paws. He felt lightheaded with hunger and exhaustion, but he had to check on the sick cats. Brightheart was sleeping at the entrance of the den. Her steady breathing comforted him as he picked his way around the sick cats. Mousefur was shivering, and he pulled fresh moss over her to keep her warm, though heat pulsed from her body. Ferncloud murmured the names of her kits, and Whitewing fidgeted uncomfortably in her sleep. J-Paw sat and listened. Something was not right. He ducked down beside Poppypaw. Her breathing had slowed. J-Paw's heart began to race. He slid into the nest beside her and pressed his body against hers. She was unnaturally still. Fear gripped him. He had promised Sorreltail that he wouldn't let her die. He focused on Poppy's paw breathing and let his body relax. Then he steadied his breath until it fell into the same slow rhythm as hers. He closed his eyes, and the world opened up before him in shades of black, white, and silver, washed with moonlight. He could see the pale shape of Poppy Paw padding through a forest. He recognized the trees in the undergrowth and the feel of the leaf-strewn earth underneath his paws at once. Poppy Paw mustn't come here. Poppy Paw! He hurried to catch up to the apprentice, and she turned to gaze at him. I've never been to this part of the forest before. She sniffed the air. It doesn't smell like home. Do you know where we are? Yes, J-Paw whispered. It's strange, Poppy Paw mewed. Whatever herbs you gave me must have worked, because I don't feel sick anymore. J-Paw didn't reply. How was he going to bring Poppy Paw back from this place? He padded wordlessly beside her, terrified of losing sight of her. The trees are so tall and leafy, and the undergrowth is thicker than anything. Poppy Paw obviously didn't realize that J-Paw could see it for himself. Can you smell the sense of prey? It's just like Greenleaf here. We've got to go back, J-Paw told her. But it's so beautiful. You shouldn't be here. I promised Sorreltail. The trees opened before them. Stop! Poppy Paw gasped. There's a drop in front of us. J-Paw could clearly see the hollow below them. The moon pool cradled the bottom like liquid starlight. In this place, everything was connected, and the forest led all the way into the mountains. J-Paw's heart sank when he saw the shining pelts of StarClan gathered around the slopes. There's a pool at the bottom. Poppy Paw breathed. There are cats all around it. Her mew trailed away. It's StarClan, isn't it? Does that mean I'm dead? J-Paw's throat went dry. Am I dead? She repeated more urgently. Not yet. J-Paw spun around when he heard Spotted Leaf's voice. Coming here with her was very brave, murmured the tortoiseshell cat. I promised her mother I'd keep her safe, J-Paw told her. Poppy Paw's eyes clouded with confusion as she stared at Spotted Leaf. Who are you? Have you come to guide me to StarClan? No! J-Paw growled. Come back to the clan with me, Poppy Paw. I'll take you home. It's okay, little one. Spotted Leaf meowed. You can go with J-Paw. There's a place for you here, but not yet. Stretching forward, she touched her muzzle first to Poppy Paw's, then to J-Paw's. Take her home, she whispered. Thank you. Follow me. He told Poppy Paw, and, turning away from the glittering hollow, he led her back into the forest. Brightheart's voice cut through the air. J-Paw! He blinked open his eyes into the darkness. Brightheart? I thought you were ill too, Brightheart whispered. Your breathing was so slow. Poppy Paw! He leaped to his paws and pressed his ear against her flank. She was still sleeping, but her breathing was deeper, steady, and strong. How is she? Brightheart asked. Thank you, Vad! I hope you're doing great too! Better than she was, J-Paw sighed, closing his eyes with relief. I woke up and found the two of you hardly breathing. J-Paw could feel Brightheart's gaze burning into his pelt. I'm glad you're all right. She brushed her tail briskly over the den floor. Dawn's nearly here. I'll go and find Sorreltail. She'll be relieved to hear the news. As Brightheart padded out of the den, J-Paw felt fresh energy tingling through his paws. He leaned down and whispered to the apprentice, I promised I would save you. J-Paw stirred. J-Paw? Poppy Paw stirred. J-Paw, is that you? Her voice was weak and whispery. I had the strangest dream. J-Paw tensed. He couldn't let the other cats know what he had done to bring Poppy Paw back from StarClan. I expect it was because of the fever, he soothed her. Maybe. Poppy Paw sounded uncertain. I was in a forest I'd never seen before, but it felt like home. There were other cats there, and you, J-Paw. You said I didn't have to stay. J-Paw turned away. It was just a dream. You're better now. That's all that matters. Leafpool's here! Brakenfur's cry filled the hollow, and J-Paw raced from the den. He could smell the catmint already, and he knew that Leafpool had brought plenty. She was hurrying towards him, fragrant leaves bunched in her jaws. Thornclaw and Brambleclaw followed, carrying more. They dropped them at the den entrance while J-Paw followed Leafpool inside. We've left Weaselfur and Crestlerpaw at the lake, she told him. When she put down the catmint, Mothwing had plenty. She gave us all enough to cure all our sick clanmates. She said she'd have sent some earlier if she'd known. And who would have told her, thought J-Paw, not StarClan. He began to help Leafpool dose the 6 cats. Sorreltail nosed her way into the den, relief and gratitude flooding the air around her. I don't know how you did it, but I know you helped Poppypaw survive the night. Her voice was thick with emotion. Thank you. J-Paw felt Leafpool's tail gently flick his flank. I knew you'd be fine without me. J-Paw meowed, or she meowed. As J-Paw pressed another pawful of catmint beneath White Wing's nose, he heard Leafpool slip out of the den. The medicine cat had been quiet since she returned, not just because she was busy tending to the sick cats. J-Paw could sense that something was troubling her. He lifted his muzzle, intrigued, as the brambles swept back into place after her. Eat these slowly, he advised. I'll be back in a moment. He nosed his way out of the den and sniffed. Leafpool was sitting below the high ledge with Firestar. Quietly, he hurried into the clearing and ducked down behind the half-rock. The 2 cats were sharing words in hushed whispers. There's sickness in all the clans, Leafpool told Firestar. Green cough and white cough. The frosts have taken their toll on the prey in every territory, and all the clans are weakened by hunger. Even Shadow Clan? Little Cloud joined us to fetch catmint, she answered. He told me that they had lost an elder. Sadness pulsed from Firestar. It's been a hard leaf bear for every clan. J-Paw pricked his ears. He could tell that Leafpool had not said all that she meant to. Then Leafpool whispered so quietly that J-Paw had to stretch forward to hear. There's a lot of bad feeling in the clans, she murmured, a feeling that this run of cold weather and sickness and poor prey is more than just bad luck. J-Paw's blood pounded, and Leafpool's mew was suddenly swamped by the murmuring of distant voices that rang in his ears. Voices from all 4 clans around the lake. StarClan doesn't want us to stay here. The new territories can't support us all. What if the sickness spreads? The whispers of doubt crowded his mind. He pressed himself to the earth and closed his eyes. Was StarClan punishing the clans? And if so, why? Dang. I didn't realize. Okay, I did realize these books, I don't know if the later books focus on Lion Paw a little bit more. I can't really remember. But man, did these books focus on J-Paw and Holly Paw a lot. This is Holly Paw's the next chapter. But still no Lion Paw. I have to, after we're done reading the book, I should count how many chapters were for each cat. But that's all I can do today. I have to go grocery shopping now. We have like 40 pages left. So next Wednesday, we'll be able to finish really fast. We might even be able to start the next book next week. I'll like end the stream and then start the stream again so that I have like the VOD for both, like for the new book and the next book, you know. The old book and the next book. Oh, wait. Oh, my God. An elder died. Sorry, guys. I forgot already. An elder died. That's pretty important. Also, dang, like, now we know J-Paw has the power to, like, literally bring someone back to life if they're about to die. Like, he can go into them and persuade them from, like, crossing the border. Are you expecting a bigger death count in this series? No. I don't recall. I was expecting a much bigger. The biggest death count I thought was gonna be in the second series, but it was half the size of the first series. I don't think there's very many death tolls in this series. It's more drama centered in the cats that are alive. That's what I remember. Not very many big deaths happened, and if they do, they happen near the end of the series. So I think we might have like either less than the second series or the same amount as the second series, if we're lucky. We're totally not going to break the same as the second series. As for the fourth series, I think the fourth series has a lot more deaths. But that's partially because I don't know any of the cats in that series. And I know a lot of the the arc in the 4th series is supposed to be tied with like the Dark Forest. So like evil clans. I mean, the warrior cat version of hell. All right, time to go grocery shopping. I'll see you guys tomorrow with Serin and Dun. I think at 4 o'clock. So an hour later than what we usually stream at. Yeah. So I might not be able to talk with you guys too much, but we'll see. Maybe too busy chattering with them. Thank you for the croissant! Right! Fun! Yay! Alright, guys. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. Croissant! Oh, that's a 100 croissant! Hi, you should have saved that for when I have the TITS on so you can smack me. Oh, that reminds me. I should set up the hand strangler. Pride, you'll really like it. I found this like new thing that I can set up and it'll be like a channel redeem and you guys can like grab me. Like, what's it you? I think I was actually telling you this. Never mind. That one. Yeah, it'll be just like that. The what? Yeah, you're gonna be able to grab me and shake me. Just like this gif. So if I do something silly, you can like, no. But my 23k points, I gotta save. Don't worry, it won't be too expensive, probably. I mean, unless you want to spam it. You know what I need? I need like a... Oh my gosh, I like those emotes, actually. I need an emote where I can... Like a note-taking emote. I don't have a note-taking emote. I need one. Should find one or draw one. Okay, anyways. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. You like my emotes? Are those your emotes? I guess they are. Ruler row. Is that you? Oh my goodness. How do you have a cool anime shaking one? That's cool. Thank you! Who did that one? Who drew that one? I like the style of it. The tears one. Abby drew it! I should have known. Abby is such a good drawer. She did them all? Whoa. Dang, Abby. I know Abby... Guys, Abby opened up commissions. Go commission her on VGen. Yeah! Oh, dang, we're already at the end. Okay, guys, bye! I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, moderation's the key to true happiness.